So this is our chatbot. This is the text window. This is not wired up yet, but this is the idea. Hello world. So when we wire up that chatbot, that will communicate in the chatbot. Whoops, over there, and until that point, we end up with this. Let me go ahead and click connect. It should connect into the chat. So there it is. It says hello, and we can say ping. Or is it just ping? I don't remember. Yeah, it's just ping. Okay. So it responds to ping by saying pong. So anyone can type in ping, and it will say pong. Yes, Mark, that is exactly what this is like. Oprah. Everyone here is going to get debilitating. Well, I'm like the anti-Oprah. You will get debilitating healthcare bills in the mail for being here, Mark. Well, that was depressing. Let's go ahead and jump back into the code. Oh, you got them already? Well, there you go. So you're fine then. Yeah, I don't even know why you needed to show up if you've already got them. What do you mean you've already got one? Okay, so I wanted to wire up something today that is a little bit interesting. Let's go with our Twitch bot. So far, we have built a bunch of views that kind of work with some data. Yes, therapy bills for all the crazy. That's right, Telox. The code that we've built is mostly just placeholders for the stuff that we want to build. Why did I start with a bunch of placeholders? The short answer is I want to be able to show it on stream and get people the vision of what we want to build. And one of the best ways to be able to get other developers to understand, what is this cool thing you want to build, is to show it to them. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be polished, but it helps to be able to see the pieces functioning together, even if that functionality is not wired up to any backend or actually doing anything. So when another developer looks at this and they see things like, let me go ahead and load it again. They see something like, oh, look, here's where all the simple commands are coming in. And here is the management of plugins. So a developer will look at this and be like, oh, okay, I get it. So if you build a Jedi Sith detector and you put it in this folder in the modules, that's the name of the folder, and it's, written in Python. So we're going to run it using our Python scripts. And this is the name of it, and I can enable or disable it. And a developer kind of gets the idea, okay, that is enabling and disabling a plugin. Now, in the long term, this is probably going to be hiding and showing a button on the side here when it's enabled and disabled, because a module is going to have some tab that is going to get edited by the user. So they're going to come over here and they're going to configure the options for the Jedi Sith detector when they have it installed, and it's probably going to do some kind of chat interaction. Now, that obviously doesn't exist yet, but the placeholder for it is there, so another developer gets, oh, we're importing in modules, and that's how we expand this. So that is why I wanted to build it this way. And welcome, I'll say Demonich. Thank you for that. Thank you for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so we have a set of commands. That data is really there. So when you were looking at that commands view model, that commands view that had the list and it had a ping and a shout out, those really exist. They're defined, they're hard-coded right now. They're not saved in the database yet, but they are here, which means that at least for runtime, if I added some to the list, the bot should be able to respond to them. So there are a handful of ways that I could deal with managing those commands. The initial step which is not necessarily going to be the long-term one, is to allow something else access to this object. So the challenge we have right now is that the commands view model is in the wrong place. So this needs to be managed somewhere. The observable collection that contains our custom commands needs to exist, essentially. We need to have this. And we need to have this be a collection that gets loaded somewhere and can be shared. So, thinking about that, I almost want to create like a command set or something like that. So we want to be able to run these. Right now, this is the only place the commands exist, and that's what lets us show them on the screen and edit them. Greetings, Lucky, welcome. So what I was thinking is, I was thinking of calling it a set, but yes, it's kind of like a state. It's almost like state management for the system. So it's like the existing stuff at runtime. So we could call it state, and maybe this is a folder that. And I guess that could be an object that just is the state store that holds on to all of the various stuff. But I worry that that will not extend well enough. I feel like, so the way I see things going, I expect that this code that we're creating for the simple commands is itself going to be a module. And it, we're not building it as a module yet because it's so core to the app even being able to do anything that we're just going to put it in there to begin with. But I expect that even simple command is going to be a plugin that we include. Which means that we want this command state to exist as its own thing. So I'm thinking command set or something like that for now is going to be an object that has an observable collection of the custom commands. I guess I could actually just steal this. And we'll have this class, instead of having the collection itself, whoops, I already have a constructor, we will have it receive its command set right here. And actually, let me back up and put that back. So I'm going to put that back so that this still exists, but the custom commands here is actually just going to be a pass-through to that one. So it's just going to be, this is going to get saved as a read-only field, and we're going to say command. I'm like, why is this not compiling? Why isn't this going with me? And that's why. Okay, so essentially this property is just a wrapper around the other one. So it's just going to call through that. So this is this a state for things like cooldown, etc. So you store the last rung. So Lucky, yes. So this is essentially going to be like the current state of things related to these commands. So anything related to these commands existing is going to be inside of this. So I guess it might make more sense to call this like command state or something like that, where this is this is like the data in memory about what the situation is with commands right now. Is kind of the idea there. And again, this is fluid. That's a starting point for how we're going to make this work, because as I said, I want that piece even to be modular as well. So our chatbot is going to need access to that. So it needs commands set. Thanks, T-Lux. So single command state, all commands, or state per command. So the commands set right now, Lucky, is a single object that encompasses all the commands. It could be that the object that maintains the state about those commands is a separate object that this is a collection of. So I called it a set to indicate that it is a collection, but you are absolutely right. There probably will be a set that is words. There probably will be a state object that is keeping track of cooldown information and things like that, both for a user cooldown as well as a global cooldown, as we are intending to have both global and user cooldowns on these commands. Okay, so right now inside of our chatbot we have a message that just tells everybody that it connected into chat, and it sends that out. And then the other thing that we need to check for is whether any of the commands available should have run. So that might be where we create the command state. So if command, actually, why don't we just say commands where it should run? Instead of choosing one, why don't we just run every command that applies? If you want to make save easier, maybe move to a central app state store and inject app service to give access to it, then save can just dump the whole thing to storage. So on that one, Simon, for certain things it will definitely make sense to save large sets of them and things like that. My plan for saving was so we grabbed a LightDB database, and the plan was sort of like anytime there's a change to the set that has changes, we save that to the database. The reason I was thinking that approach is that while this module uses LightDB in order to do its saving, I expect that not everyone will. This brings up a discussion, so let me talk about how I'm thinking right now we might do the modular connections of this bot. So let's chat for a minute. Let's talk like application architecture almost. So the way that I'm thinking that this application is going to work, I want to kind of build a NuGet style of package dependencies. So the thought is that if LightDB database storage is a package, then I could make it so that simple commands depend on the LightDB module being in the system. So you can't have simple commands without also having LightDB to do the storage. You can't do so. At that point, then you might do something like when you do your currency system, for example, the currency system might depend on the simple commands module and the token replacement module, for example. And token replacement maybe gets wired up so that it is a module that could get used by the other pieces. So I don't know if that's going to get too modular and too complex, and that's why I'm starting out with simple commands not being a module and just being core of the application. But I see that as a possibility, that some of these components, like a command that wants to check your total amount of gil could be a command that is included automatically as part of the currency module. And so you want to check how much money I've got, how much of my currency points do I have? And in order to do that, it needs a simple command response that it would create, and that would be like, you say, exclamation point points, and it responds back with like, you have, number, and that's a token, and the name of the points, and then the person who's asking it are all 3 tokens. So it's going to depend on token replacement. Now, the token replacement from the currency can really just be overrides to token replacement. So the currency module is going to depend on the simple commands and the token replacement. And it's probably also going to depend on LightDB because it's going to do some kind of storage. And that's a reasonable storage location for essentially the points totals for a user. That was kind of the way I was thinking there. I was assuming that any such store would have injected persistence. If the SDK has a published library of interfaces, then authors can add them to their constructor and composite their needs through DI and reflection. Yeah, so yes, that is the idea, Simon, is that we will... So our plan is that we will have essentially packages that give you the set of abstractions, so the interfaces that you implement in order to be able to receive the data. So if you want to be able to store using LightDB, you would essentially be getting access to the iData store. So your code would be compiled against this interface, and then at runtime you would receive the LightDB data store, for example, because that's the one that you were depending on. So those types of things would exist. That's kind of the way I'm thinking right now. That does not mean that it's necessarily going to work that way long term. Community could have other suggestions. You could have other suggestions, like how you can add logging to iHost by adding a logging package. Yeah, exactly. So that is precisely the idea. Is that you could set it up so that the configuration chose which one you wanted to use because it had only been depending on the abstraction. So, for example, you could set it up so that your project could depend on any data store, and you don't care what it is, whether they use LightDB or whether they want to use flat files or something like that, and that should be fine. Tlox, would you want to back up more than just the configuration state, such as the chat buffer in the previous chat? If so, how far back are you planning on backing it up? So, I wasn't totally sure how much chat we wanted to really hang on to and buffer. So right now, my plan is to just essentially use it and keep it. So the only storage of the chat messages we're going to use are going to be for that chat window. So that's going to be the only buffer of chat, is specifically to be able to display it in the chat window. And I don't know that I've decided how much we want to buffer on there. It could just be a number of lines or something like that, so that a really active chat isn't going to, just keep in that forever, because, well, the UI is not really going to be happy about, keeping millions and millions of lines in there. If you had a really popular stream run the bot, for example, you wouldn't want to have all of that chat in there. It would slow down a lot. Okay, let's go ahead and just wire this up now. So I think I talked a little bit about how the dependencies were going to work, but so how do we want to do this? So I want to say these where command should run. And I'm going to let the commands tell me that they should run, rather than deciding which commands should run. I want them to tell me if they're supposed to run, I think is how I want it to work. Now, this could be that I actually ask the command state which one should run. Ooh, I should ask the command state which should run. Command set, I'm going to ask command set. Get commands to run. And we'll pass the chat message in. And this will return back an IEnumerable of custom command for now. So custom command is not long-term what we want it to be. That is just one of the possible options. We're going to create that method, enumerable of custom command. That'll be chat message. Wait, why does that not work? Is it the name that's throwing it off? Oh, derp. That's why. Doesn't matter how long you've been programming, you're still going to keep making those mistakes, and you're going to laugh about it. A plugin package then being able to make its capabilities available to other packages by itself exposing extension messages on iPlugin. Yeah, exactly. So Simon, one of the ways that a package is going to make its stuff available to the others is essentially through the same way that like the options pattern that you get in all the registrations of everything in like the .NET Core registration stuff. So essentially like taking in Lambda expressions that can do that. Let's see. Virtualized stack panel. Will a virtualized stack panel do that for us, Tensei? As well as consuming those from core packages and community packages. In your opinion, it will be more flexible if we transition away from DI of concrete types and make things interfaces, especially given that the future extendability points aren't defined. Yes. Yep. I agree, Simon. I agree. There's a lot of change. There are a lot of changes that need to happen. Wait a minute. What did it create if not that? TwitchLib client models chat message. Oh! That doesn't exist over here. That's our chat message. That's the wrong chat message. Yes, hard code in all of your constructors, exactly. Yes. Clearly that's how we're going to do it. Is there anything on chat message yet? I'm trying not to. So I'm really trying hard not to bleed TwitchLib anywhere into our project for a couple of reasons. First off, because if we're careful about that, the bot could eventually connect to things that are not exactly. That's what I'm going to do, Simon. We could transition to things that are not Twitch as the chat. So this same bot could, for example, get used in another place, as long as we're careful not to bleed TwitchLib too much. The other reason not to TwitchLib, yeah, like Mixer, Icy Black Deep. The other reason is that TwitchLib is going under some changes, and the less that we depend on the explicit implementation of it right now, the better off we are, because we know it's changing. Lucky's working on it right now, and by right now I mean probably not right now, but like it is in active development. Oh yeah, Tensei, that yeah, exactly. Yes, that is a good idea. All right, so to domain. Sure, why not? Okay, so let's jump over to our Twitch project, extensions, and let's make a class of domain mapper, domain mappers. So we will make this, and it is going to go chat message, that one. This is going to be a public static that. There's another reason to only have interfaces and pokers and chatterboxes. Pull domain up into chatterbot.domain. Also set the virtualizing panel to scroll unit to pixel. Then Sirlash, good morning. Welcome. Long time no see. Then, and by that I mean I think you've been to some streams recently, but I mean like it's been a while, so it doesn't scroll by item. That is a very good point, Tensei. Then internal scope and references help leaking abstraction. Are you talking like a different project than core, Simon, or do you just mean like putting a domain inside a domain folder inside a core? You actually think I should make a full separate one? Wow, you're one of the more extreme ones. See, and I was gonna say, I'm one of those sticklers that does this. I butt heads with Steve all the time because I separate my infrastructure concerns. Because what bugs me is when people are like in their infrastructure project, they have something that is aware both of how to connect to LightDB and Twitch, for example, or whatever other infrastructure stuff you've got, because they made an infrastructure project, and I'm like, domain is not like domain name. Domain in this context means like the overall topic of your program. So in this case, it would be chatbots would be our domain. Yes, the infrastructure project that has all the infrastructure dependencies. And there's a reason internal scope exists and VS can compile more than 5 assemblies. Yes, that's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. But this this needs to exist here, regardless, even if we do break stuff into a more basic one. This chat Twitch lib dot, is it client models chat message? There we go. Turn new chat message. Message. Does it not have the timestamp of when this happened? No timestamp or anything on this at all? It's probably in something. All right. It'll get that for now. We're gonna need to fix that so we don't have that in there. Yes, exactly, Simon. I actually agree. In most projects, I like to have the structure enforced. So you're saying is the domain map allows you to point at a specific scope. So our domain mappers, what this is basically take an object that is from infrastructure the Twitch lib infrastructure, and we're going to turn it into our domain equivalent. So what to the world, like the view of our application, central to our application, the domain is like the core of our app, is a good way of thinking about it. It is like what matters to our application. So we're going to say message display name, message color hex? What's the color hex, I wonder? Is that the one chosen for the message, I assume, and not the user? Or is that color? I don't know if color is the user's color, or if that's the color of the... Great question. How is the domain object different from a DTO? So a DTO is generally an external one. Given you're going to have a billion of those, and yes, we probably will need to auto map these. You are correct. Message. No, message is message. There we go. Sweet. Message. Great. Yes, I know I'm eventually going to need AutoMapper, but I don't want to put in AutoMapper just yet. Hang on. You're right that I'm eventually going to have a million of those, but for now I only have one to run. For each to run, custom command. We'll try saying run and see what happens. Feel free to PR it in. DTO is a different concept from a domain object. Yes, it is absolutely not. A DTO is not a domain object, period, straight up. And it will match a lot of the same structure, but specifically the DTO is usually going to be missing pieces and is generally focused on the T is the significant thing. It is a transfer object. So the DTO is designed to be for communication between different things. That could be communication between your application and another application. So the idea is that this is establishing a contract between these two. It's establishing a contract between these two systems. The DTO can also be a term that you use for like your public API for that, or sorry, your API that might be talking to your client application. So if I have a single page application that has JavaScript and it is talking back to my app, I might not want to let it change permissions, change timestamps that are on the object. I might not want to let it change who owns the object, and those could all be information that's on the domain object. Is like, this command was created by Brendan. I might not want to receive that in the API because users aren't supposed to be able to change that information, so it's not on the data transfer object. But things like the text are there. Thanks, Mark. Love it. Okay, so, sounds good. You tossed in an issue, Simon. All right, that works. Okay, so I want to run each one of these commands. Appreciate it. In case you didn't guess, I'm fairly certain that Mark was kidding about that. Fairly certain. Don't know for sure. Let's do a client. We'll send that through. Ooh, was I allowed to do that? No, I'm not. So I'm going to say message. That's what we're going to do for now. Okay, so this is not going to take an object. This is going to take an action that takes a string parameter. And we'll call it send. We'll call it response. Respond. There we go. So now at the end we go with respond, and we respond with response. Yeah. That's a reasonable way to do that. So we're just going to respond with a response, which is not accurate. We should be doing more than that. We're not just directly doing the response. But remember, we're doing it step by step. So we will not have a there will not be any string replacements or things like that will occur. Okay, let's see if we can't get this piece tested for essentially client message received, sending out the commands. I think we can do that. We're probably not going to call this, I don't think. But we might do this. Hang on 1 second, chat. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try this first. So let's do get commands to run. So what is this? This is folder core. What's inside of here? This is custom command tests, we'll say for now. And then inside of this, I'm going to create command set let's say get commands to run should. There's what we'll call it. And then this is actually just going to be a fact in XUnit that we are going to define. So this is where our test comes in. And we are going to say foo, and we'll give it a name in a second. What are we doing? We want new command set. That'll be our command set. And our command set needs to have some commands. Did I not have it take in the collection in some capacity? No, it does not actually have the collection, which means this needs to get loaded somehow. So I'll worry about that in a minute, but we're going to add a new one here that we're expecting to run. And then command set get commands to run with a chat message. Sure, that's the color, and there's the text. Pull that object out. So here's our basic test setup. right here. There's the code we run. And var result equals that. Result should be empty. So this needs to have a let's make this a field. So let's go ahead and make the field. So we're going to have this get set up at the beginning of every one of our tests. We're going to automatically have it create in the constructor a basic command set for us with some commands in it. If we need a very specific command to be there, we will add it in our test. So we'll create that. There's our command set. And the initial test that'll be in there will just be the ping pong command. So we're going to have our command word be ping. Our response will be pong. Enabled will be true, which I think is the default anyway. Access will be everyone. And there will not be any cooldowns on them, so they should automatically be able to run. So there's our basic command that's going to get set up for every test. And then our chat message, we're going to say this test should return empty given non-matching message. So this message will not have that. So our user is Brandonius. The color is yellow, I guess. Actually, let's do like... We'll do that. That'll be our color. And then we will say hello. And we are expecting to get back an empty collection. So right now, this test might pass because I think it should fail because I think I still throw an exception, which is good. I know this is nitpicking, but should there be a comma after everyone? So T-Lux, I actually like that comma being there, and that is a preference that I have. You'll notice that it is a slightly, if you look very carefully, that is a slightly darker gray. And the reason why is that I believe ReSharper is telling me that comma at the end of that line is unnecessary and can be removed. Now let me show you why I don't get rid of those. Visvadev, welcome. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Let me fix wherever. So only one of these compiler errors is probably real. It's whichever one is making some other one fail. Shlom, welcome. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the stream. Why is this failing? Hang on a sec. All right, I want to explain why I leave that comma there, because it is actually for a very good reason. Let me get us a branch. Let's call this custom commands, because we are actually going to make them run this time. So we're going to bring all these changes with us. Okay. We're not going to commit whatever that was. I don't know why that thing is failing. We'll look into it in a minute. I just wanted to be able to build to make sure that everything was building. So starting to wire up commands. So I'm making a work in progress commit, which is an indicator to me or anyone else that I committed this not because it was done and in a good place and needing to be committed, but I committed this just temporarily because I needed to do a commit, because I wanted a clean slate. Maybe I was walking away from my desk because I was heading to lunch and I wanted to make sure that it was committed and saved and pushed out somewhere. Maybe I just wanted a clean slate so I could look at source control changes from a clean slate. The point is, this is an indicator to me and anyone else looking at the code that latest commit is not one you want to depend on. It's not one you want to rely on necessarily. So That's one of those things that's like, yep, you just deal with what you need to deal with. Ah, there we go. Now we're ready to write some code. My hat's kind of disappearing, but all right, there we go. Also, welcome, Jen's Duck. Hello, greetings. I was just kidding. I had to toss on my my duck hat because Jen's Duck showed up. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this commit. All right, I want to answer T-Lox's question. So T-Lox, you ready? You were wondering, why did I include that comma? And I will show you. If I go to the end of this line here and I want to add in a cooldown time, and I set the cooldown time to 1, and I take a look over here at source control, and you look at which lines have been modified, you will see that only cooldown time has been modified, but not any of the others. If, for example, I remove this line, it's the only line that has been modified. If I remove these lines and get rid of the comma, it looks like the enabled line was modified. So when you look at this comparison, it is saying I changed something on the enabled line. So by always keeping that final comma, that trailing comma there, you make sure that your changes are specific to that line. If I didn't have it here, then, and it looked like this, when someone added the comma to add the next item, to add a cooldown, they would have added that comma and this line. And that changes which lines have been modified. So by leaving the comma there, I can just focus on the change. It also means that I can just duplicate the last line as much as I want for things like that when I'm doing collections and stuff, and I don't have to worry about adding in the comma. So if I wanted to duplicate, this line, I can. If I want to duplicate this line, I can, and I can also duplicate the last line. So I don't have to worry about like, well, you can only duplicate this one, but you can't duplicate the last one because then you'd have to add in the comma. It's like, nope, I don't even want to worry about it. I just put a comma at the end of every line because there's no problem with it being there. So, yes, it is quacktastic. Welcome, Jen. Glad you're doing well. Duck approved. You use comma prefixing when trailing commas not allowed, much to the anguish of everyone around me. Yes, so Fuel Snable's absolutely correct. Another approach you can do, so in some contexts, for example, in JSON, it does not allow you to have a trailing comma. So you can be one of those people that does this instead if you want. Instead of having trailing commas like that, you can prefix with commas. Now, my code formatting is fighting me on that, but some people prefer this. And either one is fine. Do what you like and you're used to, but I leave the trailing comma because it works well for source control and a lot of other things that I want to work on. So, okay. Let's go see why that... well, let's run our test and then go see why that other test is failing. So we want this test to fail, and we want it to fail for a specific reason. We want it to fail because it threw an exception. Okay, good. It threw the not implemented exception because we haven't implemented it. Prefix comma in T-SQL is handy as the body text lines up with the params that have a paren prefix. Yes, Simon, you're absolutely correct. Yep, I like that in SQL as well. I do that there also. Imagine a future when in C# a new line means implicit new item, so no commas needed. Yes, Fuel Snable, that would actually be pretty nice. To not have to have the commas here on these. The challenge is that I also like the fact in C# that I can do a lot of this type stuff, where I just, break out new lines like that. So as long as any changes they make to that stuff still lets me do those, then I'm okay. Just involves getting smarter with how they parse our text. Okay, so let's figure out why was this breaking real fast. So core config application settings. I'm not sure why that broke. Yes, exactly. Yes, like what Simon's mentioning. Like what you end up having to do in like VB and other things. In SQL, I also prefer. I also prefix logical operators. Oh yes, yes. So I think what you're talking about is something that I actually, funny enough, I do in C#. If I have to do, you know, if true and false, for example, and these lines are getting long, I will actually pull the and onto the line like this. So I prefix them. So this is the structure that I do for these. I like having the prefixed operator so I can see what the operator is that's applying to the one I'm looking at. And it's right there. But again, comes down to preference. Do establish these kinds of things with your team and stick with whatever it is you chose. I like that too for reducing the line length. It is horrible to have to scroll to read code. Yes, horizontal scrolling to read code is a real pain in the neck. I hate having to do this. I just want to scroll up and down and that's it. Okay. So fix some issue with what test is that? DI test. Okay. Let's have a look at this. So it said this wasn't implemented. Well, I wonder why we threw a not implemented exception. Get widescreen. Yeah. So Fuel Snable, you're right. You're absolutely right. You could go and get a widescreen monitor. I mean, my monitor technically is widescreen, but yeah, you could get one of the ultra wide monitors. They just kind of bug me because for most cases, I don't need that, and it feels like a huge waste of space to, you know, optimize for the really long line, and I prefer shorter lines anyway. So, oh yes, yeah, like, it's like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. All right, so we want to do return custom commands where the command actually, what am I talking about? Test pass. I was about to write it for real. I was about to write real code when I could get away with TDD in this. Okay, so for some things like this, I do actually recommend that people. So when you're doing a kata, I always recommend, like, because you're doing deliberate practice, I recommend taking the approach where you do the, like, you know, step by step, only write what really is needed to make the test pass right now. Don't try to do all of it. Native Linux, welcome, greetings. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. We are... the reason I suggest doing that is that it is a little bit easier to take those steps and think about what you're doing and make sure that you reinforce coding the way that you want to. And so I recommend that you, like, do the step-by-step, only do the piece that you need right now. When you're doing, like, your actual coding for work, you can fudge that a little bit, because sometimes, you know, like, there's a simple way of writing this that doesn't require much effort. I might as well just skip to that. And then when the test passes, that's fine. If you are going to do those, I recommend you write a couple of those tests first. So, like, write the test that would be required in order to get you to that point. So instead of doing one test, maybe create a test case that covers the 3 cases that requires you to do the real solution. So that's kind of the idea, is you haven't skipped writing the tests, you just made 3 failing tests that force you into the better structure. So if you're going to skip steps in the code, create the tests first. So since I only did the test for it's empty, I should not have ones come back with the correct value yet, because otherwise I can't make the test fail. And if you've heard of test-driven development, I kind of want to explain this to people. One of the most important things. Get that out of here, Jitter Ted. First off, welcome. But I agree. One test at a time is something. But no. Sometimes you know that code is going to make the test pass if you do it. So you've you've got to jump those in there. And with test cases, sometimes it's just easier to put all three in there, and there's no reason not to just include them. So for now, come on, pragmatism, people. Pragmatism. All right, return single. Return. Let's say return matching command given return command. Let's say return command given matching command word. That, I think, is what we're going for. Okay. So our message here. So in order to make sure that we actually match it, we're going to go ahead and say command set. Actually, let's just save it here. So this is the command we added. Let's make this its own field. Make it read only. Okay. So that'll be, that custom command is now available to us. We extracted it, so now I can say custom command command word. And just to make sure, I'm going to 2-upper it. So there are a couple of reasons I did this that I want to point out. And this comes from a little bit of understanding of C#. So in C#, anytime you have a class, that is what's called a reference type. And essentially what that means is that the variable that you have is not the actual data itself. The variable that you have. So if I were to store this in a string and call this the text, for example, if I don't have this 2-upper on the end, then that means that this text is just a pointer to the string data. And at the same time, the variable here, this command word variable, is also just a pointer to this string data. And so for that reason, this pointer and this pointer are literally pointing to the exact same point in memory where that data is stored. So what that means is when it does the string comparison, it does not actually compare the strings. It is going to check to see, is that the exact same reference? And if they are the exact same reference, it will say, yes, true. Now, the reason I don't want that to happen is I want to make sure that I have 2 separate strings that have the same value to make sure that they match. So by saying 2-upper, I have forced C# to make a new version of this command word with all uppercase letters. And it just happens because I did this test where this one was lowercase. I know that these do not actually match, but we want case-insensitive matching. So since that's just our default rule, is case-insensitive matching is a thing with these. Exactly. As Tlox mentions in there, the casing could be anything. In our case, in our situation, using the word case too much, in our situation, we want to make sure that they actually compared the string values. I want to make sure that these really did check it. So in order to make sure that it does that, I'm going to create a separate variable. Nate, welcome to the stream. And thank you for subbing to the stream for 22 months. Probably also want culture insensitive. I mean, I could. Is anything really going to change ping like that? I tell you what. I'll do it. I'll do it another way. Custom command word. I think that will do it, actually. And yes, you're right, Greendolf. I should have just said to upper invariant and been done with it. But this also should... I think this will do it. So essentially, by saying invariant dumpster, we're telling it don't... we're wanting it to ignore the culture when it... to not make this change based on the culture of whomever is running the code. So in my case, because the culture on my system is not going to change that value, it would not matter whether I'm running to upper or to upper invariant. But that is essentially to avoid a problem that would come up from, for example, if I were writing a number, right? So if I wanted to write like $1,000.23, I would say this, right? This is how I would write it. I would say, 1,000.23. But some cultures will do this instead, and their dollar sign might not be the same thing when formatting based on this culture. There are also some other strange letters, like I's and J's do some weird things depending on cultures with like uppercase and lower casing. So with casing changes in certain languages and cultures and things like that, there are differences in how they work. So best cultures use space to separate the thousand. There you go, Pom. And that's my point, is like different cultures use different things for all of these. Yeah, so because of that, exactly, the Turkish eye, yes. Fuel Snable is pointing out one of those. The Turkish eye is a problem that you run into. There's all of these. So the point of using the invariant is to dodge that. Now, because this is running on my computer, it's not going to be an issue, but it is true. I should take a step to try and avoid that problem. And yes, exactly. Fuel Snable is correct. Surrounding and parens, depending on the context, might be considered negative instead of using a negative sign in the beginning, and there's all kinds of things like that. In my culture is C#, I use underscore for thousands. Yes, Greendolf, I'm also a big fan of the underscore separators for numeric literals in C#. I think it's fantastic. Why did the tests fail? I wasn't actually paying attention to that. Expected result to be empty. Be empty. This one should be not empty. Let's see if they work right. There we go. So we expected this to not be empty, and it was empty. Why was it empty? Oh, we returned back to empty list. Well, that's a good reason for it to be empty. Chat message dot custom commands where command chat message text starts with so we're going to say where it starts with something. Command word, and I guess I could technically do it here. Pluralization is an interesting topic too. Yes, I'd never heard of these before. You're just a data engineer. Oh, okay. Yeah, they come up, especially if you have to do any kind of translation too. You're going to get really deep into the weeds of dealing with culture stuff if you have to support multiple languages in your application. That explains why I thought the situation with the upper isn't an issue with the way Fluent Assertions does comparisons. Oh, wait, hang on. String equals is documented as comparing values, not as being the same object reference equals. Best culture. Oh yes, yeah. So you're right. It depends on how you're doing the comparison, and depends on what the tooling does to check that values are matching for things like that. 1 apple, 2 apple, 3 apple, and so on. In Russia, 1 apple, 2 apple, 20 apples, 21 apple, so on. Oh, they don't. That's weird. Fuel stable. Yeah, but you're totally right. Not all cultures are going to handle anything the same way. So it's one reason why with text you just need to be careful if you're going to be manipulating any of the text in an automated way. Lots of things to be cognizant of as developers. It doesn't mean you always have to have the answer. You just need to know that it's potentially a problem because you can look up the answer. Spartan, that is a fantastic question. Am I always using Microsoft SQL Server as a database? For a reasonable number of my projects that I work on with clients, they do use SQL Server as the database. That is very common. Some of them use Azure SQL, and some of them will use document databases for things. Some of them will use MySQL. It depends on the client. What they use. I was working with a client recently, thankfully I didn't have to install this, that used Oracle as their database because they've got some old systems that still run on it. Blinter, welcome. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. And what do you think of the SQL Server pricing? That kills us every few... so Cyrilash, I get really bothered by the SQL Server pricing only because of the fact that it steers clients away from it. A lot of times they'll be like, hey, we want to do this. Now, SQL Server does some great stuff. It is a very good system, but it is expensive. They're usually expecting their customers to be like big corporations. And so because of that, they know they can charge a high price tag for the software. So I agree, it's a tough call. I think their pricing is one of the things that steers people away. I think SQL Server would be more popular if it was cheaper. And yes, you're right, Simon, it is not as expensive as Oracle. But it's certainly not as cheap as MySQL. I have had clients ask for stuff to be on MySQL before because they were like, oh, that's cheaper. And then you try to explain to them, it's like, okay, but just remember there's also the cost of switching to it. And developers aren't cheap either. And yes, for SMB 19K really hits our budget. Yes, so you're totally right. So budgets can get totally smashed by a lot of these expensive licenses. Okay, so that definitely matches that command and does it regardless of case. So let's actually check this. Of casing. So I'm going to adjust the name of this test and say return given. Why is it? Oh, because I changed it to a theory and I didn't actually inline any data and pass any parameters. So there's the text string. So I'm no longer going to do that invariant to upper there. We're actually just going to do this, because I am just going to write in that command word a bunch of times. So we're going to literal match it here. So we're going to do ping there, I there, and there, and there. Now, there are other ways that I could have created that sample data so we didn't have to inline it the way that I did there. We could have pointed at a member that created it, for example, and returned it as a collection. There are a number of ways that we could do that, but I don't mind this. It's easy to see what it is, and I apparently wrote this one twice. I don't need that one. There we go. Okay, had to convert SQL to Redshift. The nuances were a little infuriating. Yes, even switching from like SQL Server to MySQL has some infuriating little bits. If you had any custom SQL that was being run there, like if you had stored procedures and things like that, just the little things like, oh, there isn't like a cross-apply method in MySQL, so I need to write my own. At least I don't think MySQL has one yet. Maybe someone knows that there is one. There wasn't one last time I looked, but there's lots of those just fiddly, like, this function exists here, this syntax exists here. Oh, you need to escape these when you're doing this. Oh, the type is not quite handled the same way between the two. And so, like, the development cost isn't always the developer changing this. It's also someone making sure at runtime we didn't miss something. So, like, the cost of bug fixing is huge when you get into the development team had to do all this stuff. So choose commands to run. Select commands to run. Okay, so that should get those working. When you say yours, you didn't. Yes, your old computer had to move away from Oracle because they weren't providing functionality anymore. Wanted us to pay $4 million. Yeah. Yep. I was assuming that you were not the one paying £4 million a year. Sql Server Migration is a big thing at the moment. 2008 R2 went end of support. Yes, Simon. I would not be surprised if there are people making some good money doing migrations of SQL Server onto new versions right now. Oh, great suggestion, Paman. Yeah, we'll just let the users deal with it. Good thing systems that run on databases like ERP systems aren't critical. Yeah, precisely. Fuel Snable. Yep, definitely not critical systems. Okay. So I think if this gets us our commands to run, it's ignoring enable, disable, things like that, which is fine. Actually, let's go check that. Let's add that too. Why not? Lopa, I'm guessing. Welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully that means you're enjoying what we're working on here. Let's go ahead and add a... Let's add another test. Actually, hang on. I'm going to copy the other test. We're going to do that. Return return commands only return, or let's say return matching command. Return matching command when when enabled. That's the word we use. Okay. Bool enabled. Okay. So we're going to make a new test. True. False. Okay. What is this? Primary Python Golang with a bit of Rust, but working through some .NET beginner stuff at the moment. Spartan, that's awesome. And yes, working with .NET Core and C# is a great reminder of why not to use Java. Java is one of those funny ones. We bash it a little bit. It's in that weird spot of like, Java is a perfectly good language, but I sit there and go, in most cases, I would rather use C# than Java, because it's kind of like we remove a little bit of the cruft, and some of the more advanced features are done in a more robust way in C# than in Java. Exactly. Yes, Java is a perfectly good language. That is like, did I say that? I probably did. And I've like even like a couple of years ago, I worked in Java. Yes, Ted's still here. Woohoo! That's why I said no. I did a Java project not that long ago. That's why I said like I like C# slightly better. There are things that Java is better at than C#, generally speaking, from a runtime standpoint than from a language standpoint. But you got to remember that C# was written as like a replacement for Java almost. So like, it would be a massive failure if C# were not like a newer with less baggage version of Java. It would be a massive failure on C# part if it weren't. It was written to be like a newer with, less of the old style version of Java. So it should be like slightly easier to work with from a coding standpoint than Java. That says nothing about necessarily the community, where Java could have a more vibrant community of open source projects, which it has a fantastic one, by the way. So Java, from the perspective of like a platform for building things, is great. So things like it's got robust open source packages that are available to it. It has some fantastic IDEs that exist. IntelliJ, for example, is amazing. And so that's why I point out, like, Java, specifically the language, I'm saying, just the language, not necessarily any of the rest of the community or stuff around it. I say it's like, yeah, it's like just slightly older, like C# is kind of the idea. C++ of, yes, exactly. Yep, precisely. If you were able to see the Java version for this entry, you'd probably... are you using NUnit tests or something? So, Lopa, that's a fantastic question. We are using a testing framework called XUnit. It is very common in the .NET Core community. The main three that you'll see are NUnit, XUnit, and MS Test. Those are essentially the testing stuff that you'll find in the .NET world. You can find some others, but for the most part, for C# code, whether it's .NET Core, .NET Framework, you're going to find MS Test, NUnit, and XUnit. XUnit's the one that we're doing here. It doesn't really matter which one you use. They all serve basically the same purpose and work the same way, so just pick one you like, run with it. If you are used to NUnit, I will give you the explanation. These inline data basically create test cases. So if you're familiar with NUnit, I'm basically doing test cases. So it passes these in as parameters here, and these then get used. Let's say something. What's a great one? I'm going to pull something in here. Here, Ted, congratulations. You're gonna be our message. It's gonna be !Ted. And now we're gonna say custom commands. No, not custom commands. Command set. Add a custom command. New custom command. And it has a response of less than 3. And let's do this. Let's say C# less than 3 Java. There we go. See? Nice. Command word is text. And enabled is true. Wait, no. Yeah, it's a bot command. No. Don't think like, that. C# and Java against the world. Yeah. So that's the funny thing is, like, C# and Java are very, very similar. Very similar. It's one of the things that actually makes it terrible to work on both at the same time, as I have done, because you will start forgetting which one you're in, and you'll start trying to write in the other one. So don't try doing C# and Java projects at the same time. It's a bad idea. You will struggle. I have struggled with that exact thing. It's not easy to do. Okay, so we're passing in that text in both places, enabled and disabled, and result should be result should contains single, that's what it is. contain a single one, and then result should... I'm going to say result single should... ooh, that's a great question. I need to write this. This should be single if it was true. So if enabled, then this is the case. Otherwise, we want to confirm that it's empty. Result should be empty. So we have not wired this up yet. This test should fail. I like C# has runtime resizing, implementing that with pointers and C++ got complicated. Oh yes. And that's one of the like simple core features just in it. How does C# compare to two Javas? Two Javas? I don't know what you mean. I really like the attribute approach when creating tests. I think it was a struggle once with actually running the test properly. Don't quite remember too well, but you had... yeah, so the attribute approach to writing to tests actually works fairly well. As I said, you can do more than just inline data. We're not going to do them here, but you could do like member data, where it grabs a member from this. You can say like there's a lot of other types of data that you can pass in depending on what you want to do. So in my case, I passed in these two values. It's explicit and easy to read, but you can have full collections that get passed to this if you have a robust data set that you need to run through. Okay, so clearly this test should have failed. One of them should have passed, and that was the true one. So basically what that means is we didn't check to see whether or not a disabled one gets removed from the set. So let's go to our command set and say command starts with that. So let's actually say command.enabled and that. So I am going to extract out a method here, and we're going to call this method text matches command. So we're going to say where the command is enabled and the text matches. And actually, I'm going to do this because it'll be a little bit easier to read, I think. All right, there we go. C# is the average of one Java and one Kotlin. Yeah, we've got a lot of Kotlin fans in here, I will admit. C# is less than 3 Javas, but what about 2 Javas? Look at all those curly brackets, 3 out of 10. Oh yes, Greendolf, you want me to get rid of curly braces? Here you go, here you go, here you go. Greendolf's complaining because I have curly braces. Whereas I don't really need the curly braces. I could technically do that. Someone in chat is going to shoot me for this, but I could do that. Boom, curly braces gone. What curly braces? You have everyone at your work is a fan of Go, huh? What's the difference between a theory and a fact? T-Lox, great question. So the theories will always have some kind of data because a theory is going to have parameters. So theories have test cases. A fact is just one. So in XUnit, that's the way it distinguishes a test that has one outcome and one expectation, one scenario essentially, and there are some number of cases for a theory. That being said, you actually only need to have, you do not need to have multiple. You can have a theory that only has one, but the idea is that, like, you're probably expecting to have more than one if you're using a theory. Since I've clicked some buttons, I'm going to run the tests again. Let's make sure that all these tests pass now. We expect them to. Yay, they do. Excellent. So we're going to say commands respect the enabled bit. Okay. I can't imagine liking Go after learning Kotlin. If we just rewrite everything in Go, all our problems will go away. All right, I'm just going to toss this out there for everyone in chat. There is no programming language or framework or technology or tool that once you use it and implement it, quote, all problems will go away. That that just does not happen. There is no tech so good. Well, I guess wait 100 years and maybe I'll be wrong, but that's certainly not coming soon. A technology that solves all of our problems. So, yes, exactly. People are the problem. Yes, and people include, it's us, it's all of us. Developer, like, we are not perfect. We are all human. And because of that, we make mistakes. All of us do. Never feel bad about your mistakes. You're going to make bugs. You're going to mess up code. You're going to do derpy things and have issues. That's just the way programming works. Sounds like someone who doesn't use Rust. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Agile will make all problems go away. You just have to use it, right? Yes, I see Black Deep, exactly. Humans are inventive. Yes, they can write junk code in any language. I've had plenty of people tell me that C# is like horribly efficient before, and you look at their C# code and you're like, I know why you think it's inefficient. You're not using C# the way C# was intended to be used. Like, you're recreating immutable objects all the time, or stuff like that. Or it's like yeah, we know what happened. like by the same token, you get all those people that are like, oh, C++ is super fast, and it's like, not the way you wrote it. It's not. Like, you can write yes, C#'s inefficient. We better write MSIL. Precisely. There you go. That's a great plan. We'll do that. All right, everyone, we're going to write an assembly code all day long now. This is going to go great. Okay, so we got that committed. So actually, this might, I didn't look. Did I actually get this to the point where it's going to run? Hang on. Is this going to run? If I do this, did I wire this up enough? Get the chat messages of that. It might. It might. Like, the text replacement piece is not here, but let's have a look at the bot. We're going to run it. RIP. Unable to resolve service type for that. You're right. It does not know how to do this yet because I didn't register it. Services. Okay. No, not assembly code. Yeah, exactly. We're not gonna. I was kidding. We're not writing assembly code. Pedro the Joker, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. That's a nice workload you have there. I'm sure Kubernetes is how you want to deploy. Yes, exactly. Everything is going to be Kubernetes. Actually, this is an application that's going to be running locally on someone's computer in Windows, so probably not going to do that. And it's going to need to talk to their OBS. So we'll see what happens with everything, but that's not in the plan right now. Oh, look at that! There's a bot. Hang on. Ping pong. There we go. Excellent. Try ping, everyone. Ping should now work. Ted. Yay! You can now do a command that responds back with C# loves Java. There you go. If it's not deployed with Kubernetes, is it even writing? Yeah, exactly. Yep. So there you go. So our commands are wired up and working. And the nice thing is you can add additional ones and they're in there. So that is a nice working piece there. So good try, Tlox. Now the fun one is if you do this. SO DevChatter. And it says, huge shout out to $arg1. Go check them out. Twitch.tv/$name1. Yeah, so like those pieces don't exactly work yet, but some of that stuff is there. Oh, and actually the funny thing is the DevChatter bot responded with that shout out to my channel, because that is there. So, yep. Oh, thank you everyone for actually trying to break that stuff. I do appreciate that. Lopa, would you mind showing your app startup code? You were doing something similar, but you're not sure if your way of writing it is clean enough. The app startup code is over in our app. I would be glad to show you where that is. Welcome, Code with Sean. Greetings. How was your stream? I saw you were streaming earlier. So this is our app startup code. So the trick is, keep in mind that we're running a website that you're not seeing behind the scenes. Oh, good try, AC Black Deep. Good try. I spotted it though. There have been plenty of opportunities for people to get those ones by me, because there's been a good amount of chat going in there. It went well, but you didn't know of a setting, so it wasn't recorded. You didn't get it recorded, and oh man. Okay, so this is how we set it up, and I should mention this code is actually all out on GitHub, Lopa. So if you want to check it out, you can go there. The legendary $arg1. Yeah. So if you're wondering why our shoutouts spit out that $arg1 and name thing, we want to parameterize those commands. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and pull up our project so that we can talk about that. So in the issues section, we actually have a number of things that are on here that are issues that we expect people outside of like me will be able to help us with, and those include really almost anything in here. I marked a few things as good first issues, though technically I am doing something that's a good first issue right now, and it is the what's the word? The simple command stuff. So the stuff related to commands that's in here. So storing simple commands we're not doing, but we are doing enabling and disabling, and we are doing simple command responses. So these two we are actively working on right now. So let's go ahead and bring these up. I'm going to assign myself to these because we are working on these right now. Let's draft this pull request so we can associate those. So that is 3 and 5. This resolves number 3 and number 5. So I'm going to create this as a draft when I do, and it is an enhancement that is wire up custom commands. And we'll add some details later, but I do want to show people this is how you want to set up your pull requests. Is you want to make sure that you tag any issues that you are using, use some kind of language that mentions that it's resolving that issue. We're going to add some more details to that, and at some point I'm going to put a template for how I want people to set up the pull requests. So ping love to I'd try buffer overflow but don't want to flood the chat. Yeah, T-Lox, the challenge is that Twitch chat will probably block you before you can buffer overflow ours. And yes, chat does try to find inventive ways of breaking things. What might actually work is a space. If you did a space with that, because something might trim the space off the beginning. Oh, Spartan, you don't know this? So when it reaches the end of this point, okay, so Spartan, yeah. Okay, so the using keyword in C# actually has multiple things that it does. So using is used to One situation where the using keyword is applied is for inclusion of namespaces. So using is inclusion of a namespace. Additionally, a using statement in C# as it is written right here, this is a using that is defining the scope of a disposable object. So this is like a special wrapper for a certain type of object that exists in C#. This is really just a language convenience. And so it's essentially all that happens here is whenever the execution of our application leaves this block, it will make sure that this object that exists in here, that this object is disposed of. And by that we mean it will just so Tensei wants me to click this, which is a resharper thing, and it's going to convert it to a using declaration, which is a C# 8 feature, I believe, that changes the way that a using statement works, changes the way that so this is a using statement. You can make a using declaration as well, and I don't want to explain that difference because that is going to confuse someone that is just learning C#. Yep. It's a try finally with less typing. Yes, Simon is correct. It is a try finally with less typing. So we could do this, and then essentially this object could be up here, not inside of the using. And what we would basically be doing is saying down here in the finally, we would be going, okay, but db dot we'd be doing like db dot dispose would be the idea. So it's like a replacement for writing this code, and some other code as well. Like it can do a handful of things for us that are quite nice. So, yep. Yeah, I caught that and shifted it, Simon. It's Java's try supports that with arguments to the try keyword, auto close. Yes, exactly. So languages just need some way of dealing with the fact that you have objects that are going to need to dispose. This is usually going to be like database connections and things like that are going to get this. And yes, Spartan, yes, this is ASP.NET Core, but it's really WPF with .NET Core. So it's sort of both. Our project is weird. This is a WPF app. This is a client Windows application that happens to have a web root in it. So we are running both a web application and a WPF application. The problem with try finally is that if you dispose two objects there, you might get exceptions on the first dispose, missing the second dispose. So you need to do nested try finally, which quickly gets tiring. Yes, so Fuel Snable is correct. The nice thing is, if you're using a using statement, it will take care of that for you, and you do not have to write the code, and it will make sure that all the objects got disposed if you were doing that. And the syntax for that literally is just writing more of these. You could nest them if you want, but it actually allows using statements like this to share the same context. So like if I had 1, 2, 3, for example, it will make sure that all three of those get disposed regardless of how we leave here. Whether we left here out of a thrown exception or whatever, it doesn't matter. It will make sure that the disposing happens on each and every one of those. So, I say that, but the dispose gets called. That being said, it is up to whomever implemented the dispose to implement it correctly. So if someone wrote it wrong, as was actually done with some, Microsoft framework code, you run into a problem. So Tlox, all that happened is some message that someone typed in got interpreted as a color, and it switched off. So someone typed something in that the parser was able to interpret as a color, and it came up with the color as black, and it got rid of it. So that's how those lights turned off. You think your confusion about this point actually mostly resolves around ASP.NET as a framework and understanding that. Yeah, ASP.NET Core is a very nice framework. It has a good balance of things that can be configured and things that work just based on convention. Current ASP.NET with its endpoints and everything like that is actually quite nice. I really do like all their, like, the way that pretty much most of ASP.NET Core works right now. It's fantastic. It has gotten to the point where it is a solid framework for web server development, just in time for most of the work that we do in our web applications to be client-side. I have only dabbled with Blazor Lopa. I have not dug into it as much as I would like to. So glad to hear it, Dumpster. Glad to hear it. And I hope you don't mind that I went with Dumpster for your name instead of Player 2. If you'd rather I call you Player 2, I can switch. Client side as in flavor of the week JavaScript spot? Yes, Spartan, exactly. So the thing is, we make that joke, but for the most part, there's currently three big competitors in the SPA space right now for JavaScript that have been here for a little bit. That being, of course, the Angular, React, and Vue, and there are, of course, other options, but those seem to be the big players still. I know Aurelia was trying to get going for a little while. They're still, like, they are used, but they're not, like, I don't think they're on the same tier as those three. And welcome, Super Radiance. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. You stay as far away from that as possible. You stay away from Aurelia? Oh, I don't think it's bad. I know some people that work with it and like it. You named yourself Dumpster Player after 4,000 hours of getting flamed in Dota 2, and you embrace the flame. Oh, okay. That works. Whatever. People like, whatever you want to go with. Okay. Let me make sure that I didn't make any changes because I was explaining stuff, but I don't actually want to get rid of anything here. I guess I could have gotten rid of that code. That was fine. And this is wire up the command set dependency. So that's going into our draft PR when I push that. 4,000 hours of Dota. Yeah, that's casual. Vue 3 is heavily inspired by Svelte. Will come out soon, so kind of hyped. Lopa, I agree. I am also really looking forward to vNext on Vue, because I'm a big fan of Vue generally anyway. I like the way that framework was set up. So it's the one that we like using here on the stream. We'll probably use it for our front-end code that we do for this bot when we build it. It'll probably be Vue. For anyone that does not use Vue, keep in mind that at this point, there's not a significant difference between Vue, Angular, and React. Like, yes, there are differences, but at the end of the day, they're solving the same problem. So there's some aspects of their similarity that you cannot break from. The way that they structure things, the way that, and like syntactics and other little pieces do vary between them, but at the end of the day, we're solving the same problem. So they're all still like, oh yes, we have these components, we do this routing, we do that, like they have the same bits, and and at the end of the day, they're all JavaScript or TypeScript or whatever. So it is just one of those funny little things. It's like, yeah, they're the same, they're different, they're the same. Like, I have preferences, but realistically, if you know one or the other, you can watch and see interesting stuff looking at any of them. Your internal web app uses React, traditional React hooks, Lodash, and Svelte, because why not? You suggested you should use Vue as well. Yeah, why not? You didn't mention Node.js. Tlox, yeah, sure, yes. Matrix, greetings, hello, welcome. Is there a way to launch REPL in the context of ASP, like Rails console or Django shell? I'm not sure what you're looking to what you're looking to do, Spartan, and also define ASP. Anyway, I want to jump back into this code. Let's figure out if there's something else related to these commands that we just want to wire up and get in place while we're messing with this. A couple of other things I do want to mention to everybody that's here. Be sure to join our Discord. Links in the chat over there. And check out our GitHub and YouTube as well if you're interested in either contributing to this project or one of our others. And if you want to check out our videos, they're archived over on YouTube. But our Discord is the place where you can chat with me and the rest of the DevChatter community outside of our regular streams. Okay, so I brought the bot back in. I will reconnect it real fast, and it'll say hello. But you'll notice that the TED command is gone because we didn't save it. We still have the ping command, so it will respond back with pong when you type ping. Speaking of, I do want to actually test this. It trims out the space. Yeah, so TED is now upset because we lost the TED command, but we want to get that back. So clearly we need to save this data somewhere. So that's the problem, is we didn't actually save any of our command data. So saving and loading command data. Let's do it. So we can when someone changes this, we can save the data. So we have a couple of options. We can either periodically check to see if there's changes to be saved and just save data. So just every 10 seconds, check for data changes and just save data. We can save data in response to a user making a change in one of our systems. We can call save when the program is closing for any reason. There's a lot of points where we could decide that we want to, save the data. This I see as just the like a set. This is like the in-memory collection. So I'd rather this not do any saving itself. I don't want this to know about it. This should just be like essentially the access to the models. This is how we keep track of the data. That is the current state of the system. We want some way of saving our data, though. But I'm not sure where we want to do it. This is something that I think Simon had some suggestions on. Command view model. I don't know if Simon's still here, but he was expressing some opinions on how we should do this. This could take a command set, and I almost want to have like a loading for our commands module. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time we separate out commands, not wholly as a module that's included, but treat it as a module. So let's do that. So let's talk about how we're going to start separating this. So let's build out a let's call it simple commands. Do I just want it to be in core like that for now? I don't know that it really belongs in core. But I guess we'll do it that way. Does anything else depend on it? There's the view models that defines its screen. This is going to need to live somewhere else. This does not belong in core, but we're going to put it here for now with plans to move it. Okay, so these simple commands in core. Yes, it needs exactly, Grumpy Game Dev. You can start off with its eviction notice right now if you want. Right, because we can't move those in there because they have access to that. That's why we didn't move those into core. Okay. So I'll put that back for now. So this is the commands view model, right back where it belongs. So I won't move it yet, but it needs to move eventually. What do we want to call this? This is like the commands module. And it's going to be an I module. This is going to be an interface that we're going to create that is going to need to exist inside of core in a folder that we'll call interfaces or abstractions. So this folder also should probably need to get moved. Commands module? What's wrong with commands module? Grumpy Game Dev, is there something I'm not thinking of? I will admit, while streaming, it is impossible to get your brain to think of the stuff that you really want it to think of. You'll forget about all kinds of things. You'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot that such and such. Seems a bit generic. It's simple commands module. So it's a module to allow the user to build simple commands. This is kind of like this is almost like, think of this like registration. This is like the way that we're going to register with our application that this is a module that exists, that it should be running. So a module is going to have a void initialize in some capacity, I think. And yes, Ted is correct. Naming is often hard, which is why we streamers are often asking our chat for assistance with naming. So feel free to jump in with. Grumpy Game Dev, a module in this, we're thinking like module or plugin. So module and plugin would be roughly the same word, and I'm kind of leaning towards module. This essentially means this is almost like a feature that someone is going to include in their bot. Now, technically, by making this a module, we are going to say that it is allowed to be enabled or disabled. This one may not be allowed to be disabled at the beginning. You'd lean towards plugin. And cache and validation and off by one errors. Exactly, Code with Sean. That is correct. Yep. The two hardest things: naming, cache and validation, and off by one errors. You work in a language where module is a keyword. Module's not a keyword in mine. I agree, Ted. That is one of my favorite jokes as well. Because it's multiple jokes in one. That's why it's so good. I don't want to explain the joke because that ruins jokes, but it's so, like, whenever jokes can include multiple jokes, it's just fantastic. I love that. Okay. We'll change to plugin from module. There you go. Congratulations. We changed from module to plugin. So initialize needs to take in whatever it needs to take in, right? It can get initialized with whatever it needs, so it's going to ask for an iData store. It'll ask for an iData store, and then we'll call initialize on it separately, I think. So we'll create the plugin, and we'll initialize that. So initialize is almost like enable or disable or something like that. I'm not sure. So we'll have initialize on there. We're going to call it iPlugin. It's going to be commands plugin. It needs a data store. The commands plugin whenever I tell a joke, there's a short delay when people finally get it. Yes. Venison deer, isn't it? Doesn't work in text form. It's dear to me and dear as well. Ha! 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 There are 1-0 type of people in the world, those that understand those who understand binary and those who don't. You constantly give Ted the business with class names like commands, module, factory, stub, controller, service. Yes, Simon, exactly. I'm trying to avoid having side effects in the constructor. Simon understood exactly why I created this and then an initialize, where we could create it, it gets all the things it needs, and then initialize to actually do any work on it. So, like, initialize feels like the piece that would load our command set. So this is how I'm leaning to how this would set up. So so this is why I said I wanted to make. So in my data store, if you actually look at the implementation of this, there's in the interface I wrote to do less specific, because right now the way that I'm going to do this is I'm just asking for the specific thing, but realistically, long term, I don't want the data store to know about the types you're asking for. I just want you to ask for a collection, and specifically in the ensure schema thing that we've got in there, I need to change the way that that works also. Easiest way to avoid constructor side effects: don't have constructors. You're absolutely right, Grumpy Game Dev, and that is totally true. One of the reasons why we are using a constructor here is because it is a good way to establish the dependencies that you need. So if your object really does depend on other objects, the best ways to make sure that you actually have those is to require them in a parameter list. So you either have to include that in the parameters of the methods that are used to do the work or at runtime. And if you know that you don't have the dependencies at the time when you call the method, but you will at the time but you can have it available at the time that you create it, then you do it that way. So in our case, because we're using an IOC container to construct these, the easiest way to do it is to have that in the constructor. So, hence dependencies in the constructor, and then run the code afterwards. All right, so this is what I meant when I said be less specific, is I should absolutely not have these. This should be a generic method or something similar to it. But I want to get this working while we're on stream, so I'm going to do it this way. And we will fix it later. So this is commands. Maybe we'll do it on stream. Who knows? I hope we do it on stream, but even if I don't, it's fine. Only initialize state and inject dependencies into read-only fields in constructors. Simon is correct. That is absolutely what you want to do. What broke? Whoops, not test, error list. What is not compiling? Ah, that's not compiling. Yep. I'm like, something's not compiling somewhere. Yes, exactly. Common, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make a generic T that just gets those. Yep, you are correct. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to do it yet, though. I'm going to wire this up, and then... So, the way that I like to do things, I don't like extracting duplication until the duplication exists. And the reason why is because sometimes you decide that the path you were taking is completely wrong and you can throw it out entirely. So if you had taken the time to make the ultimate generic super flexible thing, but you end up throwing out the code because you decide to go a different route, you wasted the time doing that. So I don't recommend that you do like duplication extraction and try to like remove duplication until the duplication exists. So like, don't. Yeah, it's essentially there's a practice called Yagni. It's you ain't gonna need it, YAGNI, and it's essentially it's a way of reminding developers, don't try to build the right solution off the bat. You're probably not going to figure out what that is, so you should build code only as much as you need. So when all I needed to do was get credentials and save credentials, I absolutely did not need to have any kind of generic thing that could handle all cases. We were only pulling one type of data out of the database and storing one type of data in the database. When we get down to this, with commands, now all of a sudden I'm going to have duplication. And now I'm saying, okay, yes, I'm building this way. I should remove the duplication as soon as it exists. Stop building the pyramids, you're making a birdhouse. Yes, exactly, Grumpy Game Dev. Yep. Don't pre-deduplicate. Precisely. Premature abstraction, duplication, elimination is very costly. Yep. T descriptive type name, please. Oh, yes. So a lot of times what I'll do is like T entity or something like that if it's just a generic data object that I'm pulling out of a database. And then, but yes, I do descriptive generic type names, Simon. So absolutely, it will not be a generic of T. It will be like a T entity at minimum, so that you get okay, that's a T object, not like a like that is like an entity coming out of a database. It could be like a T model, for example, if people like that word. But pick a word and it's something, because it describes what it is at minimum. Is that like only creating a method to duplicate until you see you're using the same line? Yes, exactly, Dumpster. That is 100% what I'm saying. I'm saying don't try to remove duplication until the duplication actually exists. Data access layer in a generic repository. We could, yeah. I don't know how complicated we're going to get. I kept it simple to begin with because I kind of want to dodge this. Right now, we can be very simple. So, look, no duplication. I'm totally not just copy-pasting these. But I am. That's how we know we're going to get this duplication. But it's also the fact that I didn't remove this yet. So, dunk. And that, and that. And there we go. See? Totally not duplicated. No duplication there. That is absolutely not the exact same code with different types and different object names. Totally not 100% the same minus variable and type names. Absolutely not the same code. That was a joke. It's the same code. But now we have the duplication, so now we can remove it. And before I get to that, let's do this last piece here. Creds. Actually, let's just do that. Does command have an ID? Nope, but it needs one. This needs an ID of some kind that the user does not get to see, but it's got to have an ID. Yes, ignore that duplication behind the curtain. After we deduplicate, can we reduplicate? And then can we rededuplicate? Or is that de-rededuplication? So to answer your question, the Grumpy Game Dev, that is absolutely what you want to do. And it sounds funny, but we're not kidding. You really do want to create duplication, remove duplication, create more duplication, remove duplication, and that's sort of the process. So when you hear people say like red-green refactor, for example, should we do GUID for ID, so data storage agnostic? I was going to do int for ID, Simon? Well then, the Grumpy Game Dev, I'm going to say no on that one. No, definitely not a triple equals. We need at least quadruple equals. We're dealing with finicky JavaScript here. So you need at least 4 equals signs to be absolutely sure those are the same thing. Let me have a look real fast. LightDB. I was digging through their documentation recently, and I just want to find out. So, like, they're storing these as a string, which is what we're doing for our initial one. We should absolutely be able to use a GUID. Int should work as well. I want to find out what this one will support, but most data stores will do like an auto incrementing integer ID on creation, and any that don't, our implementation of it in wrapping could write it. So it looks like they do integers out of the box, and I like integers anyway, so... I mean, I like other types too. I like GUIDs and integer IDs are the ones I like. I was thinking that integers are the ones that are fairly agnostic, but GUIDs can be too. So I'm going to int IDs for now. 4 equals. Was that a joke? Sorry, T-Lex. I was just kidding. There's no quadruple equals in JavaScript. That was a joke. Yep. What is the lovely piano music that you have playing? Pleasant Coder. If you look down below the stream, you should find information to it. It's actually from relaxdaily.net. This I have been listening to that guy's music for like, I don't know, 6 years, something like that. He makes fantastic music. He puts out regular streams where he just sits around and just plays light music on a piano with nice, relaxing scenes and other stuff. It's really, really nice. He's a fantastic guy. You can find his YouTube channel. He's got a website and a bunch of other stuff. Really, really, really love his music. All right. So our custom command... I don't want this to be a property that is ever bound. Nothing in the application is ever going to change it. For now, like, I'm thinking that we're going to want to, in some way, have some kind of interface that forces well, no, because we can use different ID types depending on the thing. I'm not sure what we're going to do with IDs yet. That's going to get complicated eventually, but for now I'm just going to toss that on there. This should mostly get ignored, and I believe that the data store will automatically set this. I know when it pulls it out, it should set the ID on this. So let's find out if it just works when we do this. So I'm not going to bother telling it about the ID. I'm just going to... I don't think I need to do this if I'm not setting an index on it, because we're always just going to pull them all out. So we're not doing anything fancy. In fact, I'm not sure we need to do these. But I'll leave it there all the same for now. ADC, welcome, greetings. Welcome to the stream. We are just setting up our plugin now. So let's data store, get commands, and the duplication, I need to get this working, then we'll remove the duplication. If we did something fancy, we'd need to hold up our pinkies. Yes, you gotta hang on while I drink my drink with my pinky out. Very important. That's the custom commands, and then commands. Can command set custom commands? It can only add one at a time. Okay. Commands for each command set. Custom commands, add. There we go. So I think I'm sure I just broke someone's brain with what I just did there. You built your first website scraping script today and you feel very accomplished. Python libraries make life pretty easy. Yes. Python, you basically just include whatever it is you're trying to... It's like, oh, you want to build a chatbot? Okay. You just, include chatbot at the top and you're done. You want to make software to launch rockets to the moon? You just say include lunar application and it automatically does everything you need. So that's the great thing about Python is you just include whatever you want, and someone made a library that does the entirety of what you were trying to do anyway. It is a funny joke. Python really does have some pretty good libraries. I'm a big fan of Python. You mean we can include the lunar module? Wow, yeah, that's actually kind of funny. Yes, overloaded words. We'll get you band-aids for the website you scraped. Yes. There you go. Scraped. Ha ha. Oh, man. All right. So that should load in all of our commands into that. So that should load them from memory. How do we save them then? Ooh, since we're initializing this, maybe this is how the command set gets its initial data set. So let's change the way we did this. I'm gonna change the way this works. So we took the commands and we said for each one of them, apply this method. So this is a weird trick that I did here, and this actually says to basically run this method and pass in the parameters. So I technically should have written this like I should say I technically could have written this like this, and then everyone would anyone that understands the Lambda expressions that we're working with would understand what's going on here. So if you look at this code, we're saying the commands for each one of them, take that command, and here, let me make it more obvious. Take that command and say command sets, custom commands, add this command to it. So basically, add this to the collection, each one. But I can just do this instead. Why will it not? Well, I thought my tooling would help me out here, but it won't. I can actually just do this, and what this ends up doing is if you pass this in, this gets treated as the implementation of the Lambda expression that we wanted. So instead of having to define one ourselves, this is one. Because the signature that for each is expecting is the same signature as the add method. So I didn't actually have to do any work. I could just give it the add method and say, here's the implementation, apply the for each, use this method. So instead of having to write, a Lambda in there, I don't have to. I can just give it the implementation. It's a weird, yes, 2 cubes of syntactic sugar, exactly. I like doing this, but it's for anyone that is newer to C# or doesn't know what's going on, that was a little bit confusing, which is why I wanted to explain what that was. Okay, either way, this code, I'm getting rid of it, funny enough, because we're going to do this. Data store, load the commands. So I'm going to create a method on data, whoops, nope, I did the wrong thing, not data store. Command set. Load the commands. So I want to do This is a private setter. Custom commands equals that. Now, someone might ask, why am I doing it this way? I know it is unlikely, but how would it have a duplicate command in the list? So Tlox, we're gonna that's a case we're gonna have to handle. We haven't handled that yet. We will need to handle duplicate commands. Right now, both will execute. And we do think that that's the correct way to handle it, because if you really do have two commands that are supposed to respond to the same word, you probably want both to happen. And it's hard to determine which one you meant. So from the perspective of the bot, we want to allow it. What we should probably do is, in the long term, for the sake of the users, give them a warning that they have more than one command that responds to the same text. So negative code change is good code change. Why am I doing it this way? So the reason I am loading this way, Grumpy Game Dev, is that observable collections are special collections that alert other objects of the fact that the items have changed. Since this is the initial load that should be taking place before we have bound this to any objects, it doesn't technically matter which way we build this, but at least for now, I'm feeling like this is more like an initialize, which I should actually call this initialize instead. So I will call this init, or something like that. I guess I could call it initialize because I called this one initialize. So rather than adding all the items to this and having it fire off each time saying, hey, my collection changed, 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 even though nothing is even listening to that, I figure I can skip all that by just creating the initial collection as this type, and then it doesn't go through the extra work, because I can make sure the initial creation is with the objects. So that's kind of the idea, is I skip that pointless call that is going to happen there. Just one cube implicit new or cast to delegate. No. Okay. That should work. So now, in order for this to run, excuse me, we need to initialize the iPlugin simple command plugin. So that plugin has to get created. So now in the app XAML CS, let's figure out where we want to go to. On startup, here we go. I think I want to initialize all modules at this point. Host services, get services of type iPlugin. Plugins, and we can extract this elsewhere later. We'll do a for each plugin. Plugin initialize. Shut down all the garbage mashers on the detention level. All right, let's try it and see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Right now, we don't have any data in the database, so it should work just fine and dandy and be normal. It seems to. Okay. Ted. C# loves Java. We're not saving these yet. I should clarify to everyone that we are not saving these, so... But that should exist, and when I connect the bot to chat, he says there, and then we say, Ted, C# loves Java. There we go. Okay, so totally works. So we've got that back. Loves Java! It does in the same way or a different way than Joni loves Chachi. I have no idea, Grumpy Game Dev. I have no idea. We were just kind of making a thing. Okay, so now we need to do some kind of saving, and I don't know how we want to save. But yeah, if you did Ted Pong, you'd get that one. Loves Hava. No, wait, lava. No, I will point out that I know I mention all the time whenever someone comes into the stream and I welcome them to the stream and I try to say their name, I take guesses on how your name is pronounced when you join the stream, but I don't know. And if you have a J in your name, I apologize in advance. There's a good chance I'm going to mess it up. Because, for example, like Yitter Ted down there, you have no idea how, like, I'm just like, I don't know what language it is. I don't know where it came from. Like, that letter has so many pronunciations depending on what language it is. Like, it could, yeah, Yitter Ted, yes. It also could be like Hitter Ted. It could be Jitter Ted. I don't know. There's so many different ways of pronouncing that letter. Like, so many different sounds that it could mean. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's my point. Like, is you don't know which one it is. So, like, code with scene there. Good old code with scene. Yep. We always like having code with scene here in the chat. Such a good person. Yeah, code with scene. And yes, I do have friends named Sean that spell it that way, but it is one of those someone that didn't know the culture there and that's how that one's pronounced could definitely mess that up. Need to change non-active. Code with Sean. Yeah, he was here a minute ago. There we go. I brought the red back. Okay, so initial save, like, we could save a bunch of different ways. There are a lot of ways that we could do it. How do we want to do it? How do we want to save? We can save whenever there's a change to that collection. Let's go to that. Let's do it this way for now. Oh, sorry. Yep. Sorry, T-Lux and Jitter Ted. I closed the bot, so it got rid of it. Ooh, that's actually a very nice gray on this setup here. Let's see. We have the data store, so we could do this. We could say command set that. We could collection changed this. Now this would only get new ones. I don't think this would get like I don't think this would get that someone changed the data in it. But you could do this, for example. Now this, as I said, this is probably not the way that we want to do it, but you could just do like a data set and then like save commands and do like command set custom commands. And now this would save anytime someone added a new item to that collection, it would just automatically do a save of that data. Just so that it was saved. The problem is this will not save when you change a record. So Pleasant Coder, you're correct. I should have it in an enable and disable, not in an initialize, but I haven't separated out that method yet. And if you're wondering why would I want to have it in an enable and a disable? And that is because at runtime, someone will be able to turn on and turn off a module or a plugin or whatever we want to call it. And so because someone is going to be able to go to this screen and check and uncheck this box, and that needs to run our enable and disable button, and essentially we're going to remove, like when someone unchecks it, its navigation property over here is going to disappear, and it's not going to be in there anymore. We want to be able to shut it off. So if there was anything observing or monitoring or running or anything like that, we need to disable it. In this case, because we're just connecting on to a collection changed event, it probably doesn't matter. But we'll see. You joke, T-Lox, but I don't mind regular expressions. I actually like them. This was a long time ago. Does this still exist? Yeah. Yeah, you will laugh, but like I helped build this ridiculously green website that looks very dated at this point because it is an old website. But like when I tell you, like, yes, I worked on a site that is all about regular expressions. Yeah, lime green, exactly. Icy Black Deep. Now the funny thing was when you go like, wow, you worked on a site that did regular expression stuff. You might some people in here might notice another name, this Stephen Smith name in here. Like, yes, there is almost like he worked on it too. So dated websites, yes, you gotta love those. Yeah, sure, Color of Dinosaurs, why not? I saw Steve working on that recently. Maybe he was working on that on his stream, I don't know. The Color of Pi? What pie are you... Oh, well... Oh, someone got their messages deleted. Spartan, I didn't see what you typed, but... Yes, it... regex licensing? Key lime pies. Key lime pies are not green. Key lime pies are yellow. Key limes are yellow, not green. If you have key lime pie, it's because they used food coloring, if it's green. So what is this regex licensing thing? What is this? Someone really doesn't like regexes for certain things. Ah, yep. That's just silliness. I have a feeling it's only semi-serious, leading lady. I'm not sure. If it ain't green, it ain't the lime. Also, I've only ever had key lime pie on a stick covered in chocolate, so it was brown. Well, there you go, Grumpy Game Dev. That's totally possible. Yeah, key lime. So key limes are yellow, not green. And I apologize if this makes a loud sound. It is time to consume additional caffeinated beverages on stream, and it's still too warm in the summer for it to be tea season for me while I'm on stream. Lights and all that. Not a fan of drinking warm beverages while it's hot. Okay, so that in theory will save them. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's do it. Here we go. Commands. Ted, we're making your command again. C# loves Java. I don't know if that's saved. We're about to find out. So first off, we're gonna connect. There it is. Ted. Excellent. Ping. I mean, I have iced tea in the fridge. Sure, leading lady, you could do that. Yes. I only like tea when it's cold and hot. When it hits room temperature, I do not like tea anymore. Which is actually why I have a little heating pad. So in the winter, when I drink tea on stream, I have it sitting on a little heating pad so it stays warm. And yes, T-Locks, we do allow you to put whatever you want after that, as long as it started with Ted. We'll check for... We'll do better checks later. Tea, Earl Grey, hot. Actually, I'm a fan of oolong tea. There are a lot of good oolong teas out there. That's my favorite. Yeah, tea has to be cold or hot. There goes for a lot of things. Let's go ahead and try this. All right, we're gonna get brave. Let's click the button. Stop debugging. All right, I don't know what happened. Yes, I know, T-Locks. Sorry, cheeseballs. You'll get another chance in a second. Come on. Oh, no! My default ones got added again. Because they're there. Hang on. Now that they're in the database, I can get rid of them. Wait. What's it called? Command view model. I need to get rid of this. I need to stop doing this. Goodbye. I think I may have all 5 now, though. I think it may have added them, which is a bummer because we haven't added the ability to delete yet. So there's no way to get rid of them. I guess I can disable them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Tea, oolong, room temperature. Yes. I definitely don't want room temperature tea. That is for certain. Okay, it did add the extras, but it shouldn't add any more extras now. So let's try this and see if it works better this time. So, Ted, everyone, C# loves Java, and then what do we want this to be? Discord. Java. It'll be that. And then how hard would it be to add a Blazor UI to replace the WPF Serialash? Probably not very hard. In fact, our intention really is to be able to like Maui this eventually. So that's the goal. Twitter? No, we'll do our GitHub. We'll make this our GitHub link, and let's see if these save. Yep, Maui. Okay, everyone should be able to do those commands, and they won't have any timeout. And then what do we want our last command to be? The problem is the previous ones are still there, so give it a second because I don't think I have this one running, do I? Or the way to check is to try TED first. If TED doesn't work, then it's not running. Yes, our system relies entirely on TED to exist. Exactly. If TED doesn't work, then abandon ship. You got it. Okay. So this, I think, is good right here. Let's try closing. I may lose all this work that I just put in. Yeah, take care of yourself, Ted. We don't want you to get hurt. Oh, no. Okay, so ping SO TED Discord. We lost our last one. So remember how I said it's only saving when we add new ones? It's not going to detect changes because of the way we wrote it. So because I didn't add an additional unused item, that's why YouTube didn't get saved. But the other ones should saved. So that was the piece I mentioned wasn't there yet, so we're gonna have to get that fixed. Alright, so the bot is back in, so TED should work again. There he is. And GitHub. And that's going to respond twice now, once from me and once from the bot. Because I have it set up so that while we're testing this, the bot we're building is responding as me. And so that's so we can tell them apart. Yeah, exactly. So there we go. They're both responding, so yay. Yay. It's working. Excellent. Okay, so let's get correct saving working, which I'm going to ask the interwebs about, because I forget how to do this. Changes to objects in observable collection. How to detect if an item in my observable collection has changed? Yes. Yeah. We do that. We do that already. That looks awful. That's changing the item. That's not change. That's not the. Yeah, it only changes when the collection. So it's gonna say changed when the number of items changes, when the items in the collection change, but not if a value of an item. So if someone changed, for example, the command word or the response text, an observable collection is not going to note that. Yeah, so this person's correct that you could respond to each of those. So what did this person suggest? Your collection changed. Yeah. There's gotta be a better way to do it than that, everybody. Gotta be a better way. Greetings, Crimson. A binding list, Wildo. I'm assuming this is is this new and I didn't know that this was here? Oh. Ah. Excellent. That's why I was like, gotta be a better way to do this. There's no way someone didn't make a better way to do this by now. Okay, why cool. Thank you very much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Much appreciated. Also, when I went, oh, I reminded myself of a character from Breath of the Wild. Reminds me of the guy that does like the snowballing thing and makes all the terrible ice puns. That's kind of what jumped into my head when I made that sound. I don't know why. So, like, I thought it sounded a bit like him. Okay, so... hang on one sec. Hey chat, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just disappeared for a slight moment there. You're gonna laugh when you hear about why I disappeared. That was absolutely my mom that called. So I was like, DevChatter mom on the phone. I was like, what's she calling about? This must be something important because she knows I stream right now. It was mildly important. Mildly. Okay, so what is this called? Binding list? Binding list. So let's check out the docs for this. What's it say? This is binding list component containing a business object. This is a complete example. So I assume that this has to be a collection of objects that are notify property changed objects, or does it matter? Two-way data binding mechanisms provides a concrete generic implementation of the iBinding list interface. Interesting. Pleasant Coder, thanks very much for that follow. I'm glad you've been enjoying the stream. Welcome to the community. Okay, well, let's see if it works. No better way to check and see if code works than to just run it and have a look. So let's spin this up and just see what we get. Okay, so that's there, and we're gonna say YouTube. And so the tests tell you something. They tell you whether or not there's a problem, but they don't usually tell you that all of it ran. Tests, what are those? Yeah, exactly, Blooper. We will get some tests on some of these pieces, but does it connect and actually send messages into a Twitch chat? That's something I'm going to want to see happen a little bit differently. Alkius, maybe? Did I get it right? Did I get it? I don't know. Either way. Let me know if I got your name right, but thank you very much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Much appreciated. We ain't got no time to write no tests. Yes, we do, Grumpy Game Dev. We will be writing tests for a lot of the stuff that we are doing here on this. And yes, the UI stuff, like whether this is binding correctly to that control. Alkeus. All right, Alkeus. Got it. That's what, hopefully, and you're not too picky about it. Cool. What I was going to say is, if I butcher anybody's name, just let me know and I'll try to say it better. So if I mess up your name, just let me know, and I will do what I can to try and improve the way I say it. It's always tough because all you get is a little bit of text, and you gotta hope that you are somewhat close to what it's supposed to be. Okay, excellent. So that looks like those are saving. Grumpy Game Dev, I never say the in your name, and seen as in shh on. Got it. Seen as in shh on. Yep, totally, yeah. Yep, code with Sean, yes. That is obviously Sean. I was just kidding, Sean. Yep. The funny one is that I do get Brendanius from some people. I get Brendanius, and things like that. But I go by Brendonius. Brendonius is a pretty it's one of those if they just run straight out and they're like welcome Brendonius, it's like they usually get it. But if they slow down, they usually mess it up. Sean Monkey. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Okay, so that is actually really nice. So that actually gets us saving of these. So save commands. Basic command saving. Not totally there, but it is kind of existence. Pleasant Coder. I'm gonna call you Pleasant Coder. Bob's hard to remember. That's really long. That's like at least 3 letters. I don't know that I can remember names that long. I wonder if anyone figured out I was kidding. Probably not. Probably not. All right. So that actually works out pretty nicely. So we need to make an adjustment to our command here. Let's take a look at the issues. So if we hop over into GitHub, I said I wanted to store simple commands, which is this. It's number 6. So we're going to add in and number 6. So this resolves 3, 5, and 6. So that's what's in this PR right now is 3, 5, and 6. Brendonius huith fifth wapscallion. Speaking of Lisp, have some parentheses. Yes, lots of insipid, silly parentheses. We always like Lisp is a fun language, but yes, there's too many parens in Lisp. How many files did we hit in this PR? 13. Not bad. Not bad. That's not actually that many files. So that is that. Okay. So we have commands. We now need to somehow get some of the other stuff like the replacements. Never too many, always just enough. It'll tell you if there isn't just enough by not working. Yes. Clearly, if your code doesn't work, it just means you need to edit more files. Okay, so I almost feel like command sets needs to go inside of the simple command plugin instead of being part of the general state. So I'm going to move it there and get rid of this. So let's do a little bit of restructuring here. So this is some of our cleanup commits here that we're going to do. Need more files. Okay. So we got rid of all those unused namespaces because we moved this object into a different one. So move command set to plugin folder, because we made it part of the simple commands plugin now. Your file embiggener. That seems excessive. All right. So that should work nicely. What else needs to live in there? What else needs to live in there? Custom command? Custom command is definitely part of that. Did I commit? Please tell me I committed. I did. Good. So we're going to move this into the simple commands. That's going to go through and do all the saving. If anyone's wondering why the text is flashing when I save and build, the reason for that is actually that I am running an extension in Visual Studio that I should mention so that people know that I'm doing it, because it is actually a nice extension. There are a handful of extensions that do this kind of work, but I run some extensions that do things like format document on save is literally the extension, and all it does is go through and it formats all of my documents when I save. So when I save, it goes through and it does basic things like removing excess spacing. That, like, if you just had like some spaces sitting on a line here, like I've got that space there, when I save, it automatically removes them. So if someone accidentally left those there, yay! It just gets rid of them. You're pretty sure if it worked at all, you would totally wreck my F# code. Probably, Grumpy Game Dev. I like breaking code. Breaking code is fun. Should commit with... yeah, so sorry, Nightbot's gonna just blast you for tossing in links. We like to be safe in the chat, which is one of the reasons why I let Nightbot be mildly aggressive with its with its use of blocking links. I try to whitelist as many valid links as I can, but yes. Oh, it generates random commit messages. Well, then yeah, we could absolutely do that. Okay, so this is moving the move custom command. So this is move custom command to plugin folder. So I'm trying to get it so that if we can get most of what has to do with that into its own folder, then we can potentially get it so that it actually is a module at some point, a plugin at some point. You'd like to find a tool that will automatically hide text on your screen, and you would like to hide your subscription ID when I show the Azure portal on screen. There is an Azure mask, code with Sean, that will do that kind of thing. That is not what I wanted. Chrome plugin. Chrome plugin. This one right here. Azure mask. Puts a little thing and you click the little toggle and it blurs all your GUIDs such as subscription IDs, blurs your account email. So yep, he built this a long time ago. So this has existed since before I started streaming. This was available. So if you're going to work in Azure, you just straight up want to have this running. It's just a Chrome extension. I guess it's a Firefox add-on too. I didn't know that. Guess he made it for both. It's been a Chrome extension the whole time. I guess he just also made it work as a Firefox extension because I guess you could. And it is just great. It blurs out the stuff that you don't want to have shown. That being said, I still recommend caution and care and like use a screen like that like occasionally because you might not want to show something. But yes, being able to blur out all those values is really useful. The Azure mask will hide the subscription in the document, but it'll be in the URL. Ooh, I didn't know you were still going to have that problem, Grumpy Game Dev. But yeah, that is something to look at. So, again, a reason to have caution on that stuff. That's one of the things that bugs me about a lot of these services. They'll just plaster your information in places because they're like, it's not like people ever let someone else see their screen. It's like, yeah, as a security risk, you should never show me any values without me clicking to say show. If there's a secure value like a subscription ID or anything like that, it should not be visible. Even when I'm the logged in user in the web application, it should be hidden. Straight up. It actually bugs me that like a company like Microsoft on Azure will show those values, because I could be sitting working on like, what if I want to go work in a coffee shop and you're just going to show my private ID somewhere? Like, no, not until I click a button that says show me the value. Shouldn't be there. Security, security, security. Come on, guys. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Silliness. Okay. What else needs to live in there? Okay, so the challenge I was running into with this is the structure I used for my menu items. Yes, exactly. I hate that they show the secrets. It's like, don't show those. Like, if you want to have it there, that's fine, but just put a bunch of asterisks. Just put like 10 asterisks in there and make me click a button to show it. Like, make me click on this little eye thing to be like, yeah, show hide the value. I don't want it to just appear. Okay, how do I get commands view model out of here? This is the problem, the icon. This needs to get created in some way. So the way that our website works is anything that's going to get used as a menu item is a menu item view model. I don't think, like, it's basically just a set of properties. Is this not abstract? Could this be abstract? Is there a reason that's not abstract? Yeah, that could be abstract. It's not really buying us anything except doing the set property trick for us on each of these, which makes it a little bit easier to work with. Friends don't share private. Yes, exactly. Romaine, do I recommend C# or JavaScript? Depends on what you're doing. So C# and JavaScript, Java, Python, they're all fantastic language. TypeScript's a fantastic language. There's so many great programming languages out there. And it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you mean which one do I recommend for someone who's wanting to learn to program, it depends. Abstract Civil Cow, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. JavaScript is a pretty easy language to jump in and just kind of start using in some ways, and there's a lot of places you can use it. C# also is a pretty easy language to just kind of step in. Both of them, yeah, so JavaScript is very approachable. Like .NET Core C# is pretty approachable as well. The thing you need to be careful of is as you start digging into them further, they're both languages that can get really confusing quickly because there are so many ways of doing things in them that it's pretty easy to get lost in just the plethora of syntax that you're going to run into. That is the challenge with both of those languages. They've been around long enough. There's also some things that are just gonna, like, well, you'll make this face when you see, like the one in chat over there, you'll make that face when you see some things in JavaScript. And yeah, so as Icy Black Deep mentions there, C# is easy. C# is easy to learn if you dodge some of the newer stuff. So as a beginner, one of the things that can be overwhelming is the fact that there are so many... there are things in JavaScript that are infamous. And infamous for the grumpy game dev, of course, means more than famous. There are some things in JavaScript that are more than famous. JavaScript, you'll never really understand what this means. Correct. As Icy Black Deep mentions, that's this is one of the you're not going to get me to sing any of the songs, just so we're clear, Grumpy Game Dev. Also, that's a mail plane. How can you tell? And we won't get into that joke on stream. Okay, so the way that we did menu items is we created these hamburger menu, like we've got hamburger menu item base is out of there. This has a handful of requirements that it is making us include, which let me just do this so you can see. So technically we should make it only requires is visible. That is funny. And then we bound the rest of these. Base view model is base bindable. Okay, so nothing fancy on there right now. Nothing in there that's going to cause us any problems. The only thing that causes us problems is the icon. This is it. My little buttercup has the sweetest smile. Well, I'm glad you validated my Three Amigos nerd card. Always appreciated. Yes, there's nothing like establishing friendships on the internet based on familiarity with the same nerddoms. Okay. Let's think this through. There's got to be a way to pull this out. So we could either make it so that all modules have to... So modules themselves have to be aware of the icons and initialize their menu items with these. That's one way to do it. We could just say, if you want to build a module, one of the requirements that you get is the set of icons that we use. Which actually, if we're thinking that way, we could do the icon like enum set that someone was suggesting before. That you just specify which one you want, and end up having to get it. Not super big on that. How did I use this in the actual hamburger menu, though? Main window. Let's take a look. I don't remember how I have this set up. That was me. It is exposed in the... what was you, Icy Black Deep? Also, note for everyone that's watching this, that's watching us working on this project, if you are interested in digging into this and trying to work on this project as well. Oh, you were the enum fan. Yeah, okay. This is actually an open source project out on our GitHub. We are trying to build this so that this is not just for developers, but we want to make it very modular, so developers should be able to build lots of cool new stuff for it, but we want our end users to not necessarily be developers. So we're going to need this to be like an easy, just install and run application that non-developers can just try to just include packages that they want to have is the end goal. So you'll just pick what stuff you want in here, and if you have a friend that built some cool stuff for it, they can do that. They can build it for you. They can, that's the end goal, is make this very, very customizable application. How did I bind the icon? Icon. Nope, that's not the... I don't think. What? Maybe it was... Oh, it's in the app. That's what Simon was mentioning. Crimson, you have no sound? I hope you just mean that it's muted. Everyone can hear me, right? I didn't, like, go quiet, right? Excellent, thank you. 5 by 5. Thanks, Cal Raven. Hi, Crimson. Okay, so our menu item template is right here. So for a menu item view model, so this, basically what we said is, this is the data template for how to display view models that are of that type. So this is the type that we had that includes that piece. Technically, Nenth, which I'm going to say Nenth. If that's not how you pronounce it, let me know. So WPF is certainly not, describing it as the new WinForms is really a stretch. It's kind of like the old new WinForms, because WPF is not at all new. Not a bit. WPF is like, I can't remember when it came out. It's like saying if C# is the new Java. It's like, well, technically it is a replacement for that, but it's not new. So using WPF with .NET Core is a fairly new thing. So this is WPF running with the new version of .NET. That being said, the next version of .NET is going to be .NET 5, and along with that, they're also going to be adding a new front-end UI framework that will be essential, that I would consider to be the replacement of this, that is also cross-platform. It is called MAUI. I don't know if they're calling it MAUI, but the community is. It's MAUI. And MAUI is what we eventually want to switch this to as soon as it becomes available. So we're going to switch to the cross-platform UI approach, and hopefully we can make it so that this will run on Windows, on Mac, and maybe even on people's phones and tablets. So if someone wants to run their chatbot from their tablet, they absolutely can. And yes, Fuel Snable, Electron is absolutely the new WinForms. Crimson Green, thank you very much for dinoing up and resubbing to the DevChatter live stream. What extensions are you using to quickly access and search class names? Lopa, I am using one called Resharper. So this is JetBrains Resharper. So I am a fan of... I should mention to everyone, I'm a fan of using productivity tools of all kinds. So if you are someone that loves JetBrains' approach to development, and you're used to IntelliJ or anything like that, then you should either be using Writer or you should be using Resharper. One of those, if that's your background. So Ted would absolutely be using Resharper if he had to use Visual Studio. Because it would feel familiar. And the funny thing is, Ted will laugh about this if you actually are someone that uses IntelliJ. I use the IntelliJ keyboard shortcuts in my Resharper. So all the keyboard shortcuts I use are probably the ones that Ted is used to. So Ted would do just fine writing C# code alongside me in this. Yes. And so the... some people out there like different approaches to their productivity tools. If you like productivity tools that are all about interpreting what you're typing and trying to autocomplete and creating lots of snippets and other stuff that build the code for you while you go, you should be looking at a tool called CodeRush, for example. And CodeRush is from a company called DevExpress. If you like the more like refactoring style approach that you'll see me do on here, then you want Resharper. So and maybe you can't afford either one of those, then that's totally fine. I know they also have like student versions and things like that. Sometimes you can get your employer to buy them, but even if you can't get those, there are other productivity tools that are free extensions that you can include in Visual Studio without having to pay anything. There are also other IDEs that do some of the same stuff. Regardless, I will tell you, as a developer, you should be using some kind of productivity tool, even if it's just things that are like automatic code cleanup and such. Visual Studio now has a lot of these types of features built in, but I still like having some extra stuff. But you should absolutely be running those sorts of things. You have to wait until your Cisco card to get those. Yes. Developer budgets disappear sometimes, but yes, it is really, really important that you do that, because there's no reason not to use productivity tools. They just help you get more stuff done. You don't even know the shortcuts anymore. They're embedded in your fingers. You don't use a fancy text edit. Exactly. VS Code. VS Code actually has a lot of plugins, though, and does a lot of that type of stuff. So it is very good at it. Yes. So Warren is mentioning one that is free. So Roslinator is very nice because it uses a lot of it's basically relying on Roslyn analyzers in order to do a lot of refactoring and other stuff like that. So it is, and yes, it is free. I know a bunch of people that their plan was to use that instead of ReSharper right out the gate when it came around. Right now, you just use a file add-on and CodeMade, and you'll have to wait until you can afford things like ReSharper. Yeah, so there are a lot of other solutions. My point being that whether you're buying an out-of-the-box paid solution or whether you're using a handful of free solutions, doesn't matter. Choose a solution. Choose something that helps you to write better code. Some of it's just the safety of a refactoring tool is less likely to make a mistake than a human. Sometimes the tooling can let you know about like stuff where you included code that you didn't need to, and other things like that. So just pick what you want. Running linters is just basic care of code. Exactly. Yes, precisely. Yep, we all make mistakes, leaving trailing white space, and just other things that you just might as well just get cleaned up and that sort of thing. VS Code's fine for Java and TypeScript, or JavaScript and TypeScript, but not for Java, no matter what Red Hat says. Yes, I got that you meant that was JavaScript, Ted. And yes, I agree. So one of the interesting things that you'll notice on the stream is that you should be using so I do something on my stream that is in some ways a recommendation to all of you, and that is that you should be using the correct tools for the correct task. So while I'm writing C# code, I am usually in Visual Studio. That being said, that you can do C# development in VS Code. You can do it in a lot of tools, but Visual Studio is one of the best ways of writing C#. So we're in Visual Studio. When you see me writing JavaScript code on the stream, I'm sometimes in Visual Studio if my project is a Visual Studio 1, but if I'm doing if I'm doing a lot of JavaScript or anything like that, or any kind of front-end dev, you'll see me in VS Code, and I will pull that up, and that is the one that we'll be using, because you should use the correct tools for the correct job. So feel free to switch. They are similar enough that it's pretty easy to work between them, and a few keyboard shortcuts are going to throw you off. But other than that, it's nice. Yes, exactly. If you're editing a single line of Java or C#, then VS Code is fine for that, as at the same way that I say, like, if I'm just doing small edits to the front end of an application in Visual Studio, that's fine. It does well with that. And sometimes I'll have them both running and pointed at the same code base. VS Code and Visual Studio both pointed at the same time. Notepad gang for C#. There you go, Cal Raven. Very nice, very nice. You can set Visual Studio to use the VS Code keyboard shortcuts. Simon, I want to go the other way. Since VS in general is really heavy and you want to do full stack, isn't Rider really good for that, since it can do C# really well? So as the front end, yes. So Lopa, you're right. So some people actually do like Rider for that. The approach that I take is that I think that, and this is my personal opinion, Rider is a fantastic solution. I like Visual Studio better for the C# stuff, and I like VS Code better for the front end stuff. So I would rather run both editors that are both that each one I feel is a little bit better than having the combined one that is still very good. I promise I'm not using Notepad. Cal Raven, I figured you were kidding. That being said, I have absolutely edited code files in Notepad, and I don't mean Notepad++. I have absolutely edited code in Notepad. It's been a long time, but I have done it. Sometimes you just don't have an editor on the machine, and you just need to change a bit of code, and whatever. Yes, let's have an IDE war. That sounds great. Regarding IDE wars, you'll notice that I started out by relating with Ted, for example, over the fact that there's a good chance that Ted uses IntelliJ, especially when he expressed a positive attitude towards JetBrains, rather than having some big argument over whether Visual Studio or IntelliJ are the better solution. They're all good. Who cares? You edit shell scripts in Notepad. Well. And yes, Crimson does have a green sword in here. Watch out. He's our most banhammer using moderator in the stream. You came that close to working for JetBrains as an IntelliJ advocate? Oh, that would have been awesome. I loved it so much I bought the company. Yeah. And the funny thing is, you're not wrong. There are some fantastic IDEs out there, and IntelliJ is a great IDE, so being an advocate for it would not be the worst thing. Okay, so let's see what we can do with this. So what did we actually put in here? We did a content control, and the content we provided was the icon. So what that tells me is that that icon can be anything, as long as it can bind to the content of a content control. And whatever you use, you'll still miss spaces from the YAML pipeline. Yeah. Oh, speaking of, I did not set up our automated build yet. I was planning on potentially doing that. I don't... Simon, you had expressed interest in setting up the automated build. So if you want to do that, feel free to knock it out. I have not done it yet. GitHub has some reasonable templates for running Windows applications and just setting up a basic automated build that just runs the tests and builds the application. Oh, don't get me started on fiscal years. Those are the worst things. Anyone that has, like, when you have to deal with fiscal calendars at companies, that is terrible. It is like, time is dealing with time and time zones is painful enough until you get into fiscal calendars, and then you're like, oh yay, now I get to deal with arbitrary calendar that just puts its dates wherever it wants on things, and you're like, this is great. Yeah, it's Q2 of 2021 already. I'm sure there's a company that it's Q2 of 2021 already. Who the heck knows? Okay, so the reason I cannot pull this object out is because it has this. I kind of want to do one extra branch. Make menu item view model abstract. First off, let's commit that. I'm going to make a branch for this change that I'm doing right now, so I'm going to branch off my branch. Whoops. New branch. Benric. And what is this branch going to do? It is... Module, plugin folder. All right, let's go crazy. Let's go crazy. Okay, let's add a folder, a solution folder called plugins. Inside of plugins, we are going to add a new project. This project is going to be a class library for now. Class library in that we are going to call this simple commands. Whoops. Class library. I thought I already clicked that. Okay. So source, and it's going to go in a plugins folder. Create that. I wouldn't express my potential for enjoyment enthusiastics as strong, but it needs doing, and I have a YAML handy, so I'm happy to get it sorted out. Okay, yeah, that's fine, Simon. You had expressed something about it, wanting to have it there. So if you want to knock it out, go for it. If you'd rather I knock it out, I will knock it out at some point. So, but yes, one of us should add that at some point, and it's as long as projects aren't moving, it's relatively, you know, unlikely to make any conflicts with any other code. So let's add a reference. So this needs a project reference to core for now. And I am going to reference core even though we should technically have some kind of basic, like simpler abstractions class that we connect to, but we'll connect to core for now. Now I want to take everything out of simple commands. Let me go to properties, because I want to change the namespace to chatterbot.plugins.simplecommand. Zeriar, I'm guessing. Welcome, thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. That's going to be the name of this. And vFlow, welcome. And or vFlow, I'm not sure. Either way, if I butchered either of your names, let me know and I will try to say them better. Just let me know how to say it. You put an issue in for separating out the abstractions. Okay, thanks, Simon. See, it's really useful to have other people in the chat while you're working on this. It's like having pair programmers that that you can be like, hey, yes, we had this idea. Without it saying, it's like, yeah, someone else can just go and do that, so you don't have to break your chain of thought. Okay, so now that we have those set, let's see if we can move these. So cut, paste, and let's see how much breaks. So the view model that we have here needs to move as well. Custom command needs to be so that's another abstraction that we need to have, interfaces, and this needs to be this needs to be like, so it's not quite like, I don't want to do V for like Austria, nice. Blah blah, welcome. I have been to Austria. It is a lovely place. And welcome. And whose Yagni is that? Jitter. Oh, it's your Yagni. There you go. That's a nice Yagni. what do I want to call this thing? This is like the like run template. It's like message handler. Yeah, there you go. So this is like, this is how it responds. This is like how it receives messages. So we'll say like void handle. So what did we do when we did run? I think run was the method we called. There it is. This is what we want. Something like that. Command set no longer exists in here, so this is not a thing anymore. I'm doing the big break right now where we make plugins a thing. This is a huge step that I'm trying to figure out how we want to do this. So we're basically trying to take code that we put in the core and we're just trying to rip it out and get it so that like these are very abstract and you can include any of them. So this is why I came to a separate branch. I wanted to see if this was going to work. So this is checking to see, can we just rip this stuff out? So it's almost like I need the message handlers. So if I put this concept here over in the message handler for this, so let's make a message handler. Simple commands, message handler. And we'll make it an iMessage handler. And we're going to take this code here and put it in there. And it's actually the thing that gets these. It does not have data protection, but it does have a command set. So it wants to get wired up with this stuff. It is an iMessage handler. It needs the chat message as well as that. Okay. So the chatbot no longer gets that. It no longer gets the command set. It's going to need message handlers instead. So it's going to have an IEnumerable of iMessage handlers. Okay. The message handlers are going to need to be a field that this is keeping track of. And then for each message handler, the handle method needs that. It needs to get the chat message. So chat message, that. I need to go to the interface and add it in as well. So the interface has changed so that we now receive the chat message and the way that we're supposed to respond, so that we don't actually need to have access to our own instance of the client or need to know where it came from. So we're not doing this piece. This is what's getting sent to us. So let's take this. Out to here. Chat message. And this is almost like, so instead of being message here, I'm going to call this response. And this, we may have to make that response optional. For now it is not, but that's sort of the plan there. So when we do the handle of the message, it should send that in there. So it's going to send the message to each one of these. It's going to do that. It's going to be the handling, and it's going to handle sending the message out when it's done. It's going to handle sending the response when it's done. Okay, so then when we look at handle, the only implementation's right here. We have the chat message. We're going to say run the command, and how does a command run? The command runs by taking in the respond. And does it need to do anything? That's it. So it's going to take the same response, and it's going to figure it out. So that works okay as far as we're concerned. So now we just need to register the message handler, I think. So we will just need to make sure that all of these get loaded. Yeah, so we have a couple of pieces that we still have to get working here. But it does start to get some of these things going. So where is our plugin? When it initializes, needs to receive the service collection. My service collection. Can we modify the service collection at runtime? I forget if that's allowed. Can I add to it after the fact? Can I just I forget whether I can. I don't remember if I can do this. Take care, Jetter Ted. Thanks for hanging out today. No, it is impossible to watch a stream and edit at the same time. It just does not work. I totally understand. Okay, so you receive the service collection when you get this. Why is it not okay with that? Oh, because it doesn't know what the custom commands are right now. Because we need to make this generic. Get entities. T. Save. Entities. Don't worry, I'm changing T. T entity. T entity. Okay. Okay, so now our data store is simpler. Why do you run your browser in private browsing? Is it just for privacy or for the stream? Helpful stranger, a lot of times when I'm just Googling random stuff, I run it in private browsing just so that I don't get all the generic stuff that I went searching for while I was streaming to just be in my autocompletes. So it's other than that, nothing really. I do lots of random Googling in private browsing so that I don't bother with those being autocompletes, because I usually don't want them to be, because I didn't really care. Alright, so let's add those couple of things there. That'll be the get. and that'll be the save. And we may get more advanced than these, but yay, that's the ones. So we said we were going to get rid of that duplication eventually, and there it is. Entities, and then we need to get this to be the correct type, so that'll be T entity, and name of will be, so here's the tricky part, is this needs to be the type of T entity dot name is what that ends up being, because I used names of the objects as the type names as the values there. And then this is T entity. So we will get a collection that is of a T entity and upsert said collection, and it should work. Okay. Yes, Simon's correct. So the way I actually get around that, which is funny. So Simon's correct. Simon, I believe, also does essentially is an independent software consultant. So runs into the same kind of thing, which is that I try not to have all of you see my client information. I don't because they may not want me to tell everybody what clients I'm working for at any given time or anything like that. So I actually have a separate browser. So so in Chrome, I make separate profiles. I think they're called profiles or something like that. So I have one for the DevChatter live stream that is just this. And even then, I still in private browsing when I search. But yes, that browser is specifically for I've got all here. Look, if you take a look at my shortcuts, you'll see this is just stream stuff, and the projects is just our DevChatter stuff. So this is a profile that is specific to the stream. So it's got Vue, it's got Azure Mask, so it is designed to be used for streaming. So that's why it's here. So this is get entities, and this one is custom command. And this one is save entities, and it knows that those are commands. So I don't actually need to tell it on that one what the type is. And this is save entities. And again, I don't have to tell it because it already knows for that one. And then initialize somehow needs to pass in the service collection. Which I don't know if there's even a way that I can do that. So we're going to do that for now, just for compilation's sake. So it's going to totally break everything. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to need to change a few things about that to make it work, but that's just sort of the way things are. So, this is a big change that we're making here, which is why we created a separate branch for this, because our other one should be able to merge in, and then we should be able to do this to complete our work. But our other one, I think, is ready to go, so I'm going to PR that, and we're going to have a look at it. Before we do that, though, I want to do a couple of things. First off, I want to click this button, because I want to let you all know that if you haven't yet, you should check out our Discord. It's a great community. There's a link to it over there in the chat. Our Discord is very friendly. It's got a lot of people in the community, and it's got literally hundreds of developers, and it is a very nice place. So if you want to talk to the other developers about code, it's a nice spot to do it. If you are interested in working on this project or any of our other projects and helping us out with the code that we are writing, checking out our GitHub at github.com/devchatter is a great place to do that. You can also find archives of all of our videos, all over 250 live streams that we have done here, as well as the custom recorded stuff and scripted planned content that is over on our YouTube channel. You can find that at youtube.com/devchatter. Again, links are down below the stream as well. If you are interested in catching our future episodes, I recommend that you follow the stream by clicking the follow button on Twitch, which is somewhere down there, I think. And you can get notifications when the stream goes live, as that's the best way to make sure that you don't miss our future episodes. Right now, our stream schedule is Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And on Mondays and Tuesdays, we start at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's about 1800 UTC. On Thursdays, we start at about noon Eastern Time, and that is about 1600 UTC. And on Saturdays, we start in between that at 1700 UTC, which is 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So hopefully we will see you in our next episode. I'm going to go ahead and wrap our stream here and toss some credits. So if you enjoyed our stream, be sure to click the follow button. I want to make sure that I thank our moderators, Mr. Shoji, who just showed up. We had some other people here earlier as well that this has forgotten about. I want to thank these wonderful people for following us on the stream today, and everyone who chatted or interacted in any way. If you were helping us test our commands, making suggestions, or just discussing anything related to programming, I want to thank you as well. I also want to thank Nate and Crimson for resubscribing to our channel. And yes, if you were one of the lurkers in the stream, that's great too, whether you were sitting around just watching what we were doing, just looking at the code, hanging out, whatever. Either way, we're always glad that everyone spends time with us. So Leading Lady, have a great rest of your day. Everyone else, have a great rest of your day. Hopefully the rest of your weekend is fantastic and you'll have a great start to next week. Until next time, take care, happy coding, and enjoy your weekend. Bye everyone.